Traverse County Board of Commissioner meetings for Wednesday, August 7th, 2019. First order is our invocation. We have Matthew French from Garfield Township. Would you come up and give us an invocation today?
Thank you. And for as many as who wish to pray, let us pray. Our God and Father in heaven, we count it a joy and a privilege to have been brought into this day, and we are thankful for the privilege and opportunity to serve you. We pray that our hearts will be filled with thankfulness, that we're able to come here in a country that is free and able to talk about these issues that are so dear to our hearts. We pray, Father, for the things in which we have been called to serve in and the stewardship and responsibility that we've been given. We pray for the privilege of serving a people, a nation, and a land. We pray, Father, that a spirit of peace and cooperation will be amongst us, that each of us will look to serve our brother and sister here. We pray, Father, that in all things we might be a keeper. We thank you again for all of this. We pray that you will bless the nation whose God is Lord. All this we ask through your Son, who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
LaPointe,
Present.
Klaus,
Here.
Wheelock, Jewett,
Here.
Hunley, Kofia,
Here.
Henschel.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of the minutes for July 17th, 2019 regular meeting on page 3 in your packet, and minutes of July 24th, 2019 study session, page 9 in your packet.
So moved.
Okay, approved by Jewett. A second?
Second.
Supported by LaPointe. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Okay, we are at first public comment. Please read the rules.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, allow an additional opportunity or time to speak if determined germane and necessary to the discussion. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment may be received during the meeting when a specific agenda topic is scheduled for discussion by the board. Prior to the first public comment, the chairperson will indicate the topics on the agenda for which public comment will be accepted. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak at public comment this morning? Step right up to the podium. Start with your name, where you're from.
Sure.
Good morning.
My name is Brenda Rush. I live in Traverse City, Michigan, and my remarks this morning are on Resolution 20-2019 in support of Line 5 tunnel. Since Enbridge first laid claim to the bottom land of the straits in 1953, opportunistic politicians and interconnected parties on both sides of the border who have chosen to play nice with Enbridge have profited. Recent legal actions have accelerated one of the most expensive and far-reaching public relations campaigns in Michigan history to fighting increasing public pressure to shut down Line 5. A look at a map of Enbridge's vast Michigan pipeline system demonstrates it all rides on Line 5. Governor Whitmer tried to reach an agreement with Enbridge, but Enbridge walked away from negotiations and instead filed a lawsuit against the state. After this action, A.G. Nessel filed a lawsuit for the state of Michigan against Enbridge, stating that the easement granted by the state in 1953 violates both the public trust doctrine and the Michigan Environmental Protection Act. Your passage of Resolution 2019, will align you with the long-established effort to turn the state of Michigan into the province of Enbridge. To risk 20% of the world's fresh surface water, 80% of North America's fresh surface water, and the drinking water source for over 40 million Midwesterners. Clearly, your resolution was written from Enbridge, provided information based only on studies bought and paid for by Enbridge. Here are some facts, not beholden to the pipeline industry. Line 5 has failed 33 times since 1968, spilling at least 1.1 million gallons of oil into the Great Lakes. Enbridge lacks a credible plan to recover spilled oil on ice-covered water. On July 25, 2010, Enbridge caused the nation's largest inland oil spill when its Line 6B pipeline burst near Marshall, Michigan. 1 or 2 rail cars or a few tanker trucks a day could replace Line 5's UP propane supply. Line 5 was never designed to serve as a vital oil or propane infrastructure for the state of Michigan. Line 5 was designed and to this day serves strictly as a shortcut for Enbridge products to move through Michigan and back through Canada. 1 in 5 Michigan jobs are directly tied to healthy Great Lakes. The Great Lakes tourism, recreational, and fishing industry is valued at $47 billion annually. Line 5 creates at most 250 full and part-time jobs filled by Michiganders and Canadians living in Michigan. More than 1.5 million U.S. jobs are directly connected to the Great Lakes, generating $62 billion in wages. Today, over 90% of Line 5 crude oil runs through Michigan, is refined in Canada, and then is exported by Canada via the Atlantic Ocean. Northern Michigan is ground zero when it comes to Line 5 rupturing, and it will rupture. Grand Traverse County and all points north will be forever and irreparably altered.
Thank you very much. Your time
And
is-
for what?
Your time is up.
A multi-billion-dollar Canadian oil
Ma'am,
company
ma'am, your time's
continuing
up.
to make billions.
Ma'am, you're out of order.
Why pass this
Ma'am.
resolution?
Thank you
I'm
very
out of
much.
order.
Thank you. Okay. First one gets it. Step right up. Morning, Dave.
Good morning. I'm Dave Petrol from Interlochen. Now, this is a public comment about public comment and the minutes. Sadly, this County Board of Commissioners of Grand Traverse does not pay attention to citizens who spend a lot of their personal time and energy to listen, learn, and speak up at government meetings. It is obvious that we, the people, are considered an annoyance and they are happy to ignore our insights, our suggestions, and pleas for help, be it about meeting times, agenda schedules, committee assignments, appointments, conflicts of interest, or destruction of our environment. The majority of our board works for business and political party interests. Democracy and we the people be damned. Many concerned citizens are here again and have come with high hopes their voices will be heard. Many will speak, and many have taken time to write their comments to submit to the clerk. Under the mistaken belief these comments will be recorded in the minutes. That does not happen anymore. Nothing we say here will be part of the written record. All that will appear in today's minutes is your name, not even the subject you speak about. That is not what democracy looks like. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. We got that recorded. You can watch it anytime.
It's only good for about a year, then it's erased.
All right, next person. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Stan Verheul, Verheul. I live at 3400 North Timberwood Drive, Traverse City, 49686. I would like to address both of the resolutions that are before the commission today, and I have to say I am stunned. I am totally stunned. I was one of many, I'm sure, who communicated to you our thoughts. I urged you to vote no, and I listed A, B, C, the reasons I thought you should. But as I reflected on this, I became convinced that neither of these resolutions is worthy of honest discussion or reasoned responses because they are dishonest in both fact and intent. They are actually power plays, seeking legitimacy because folks like me and all of these other people actually respond to them. The first, Enbridge, is in the whereas section, pure propaganda for a company whose track record for safety and disclosure is dismal at best. In the proposal itself, it gives license to indefinitely stall and bamboozle people while Line 5 remains a threat to our precious waters. And it affirms a massive investment that will only stall efforts to at least lighten the threat to our climate. The second resolution, the citizenship question, pretends to merely want an honest counting of residents in our country, when in fact it is a tool of voter suppression already denied by courts. It is deeply sinister in its intent and its outcome. If it is passed, it will be shameful. It will demonstrate that our leaders, and that's you and others as well, either are unaware of what is being done in our society today or are willing to be complicit in it. I object. I object. I object.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Emily Magner, and I'm the Northern Michigan Regional Coordinator for the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. My address is 954 Baldwin Street in Traverse City, and I was born and raised on these shores. My bones are indeed made of the nutrients from this region. I'm here today to voice my opposition to the continued operation of Enbridge Energy's Line 5 pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac, and in opposition of this resolution. The damaged 66-year-old pipeline has been allowed to pump millions of gallons of oil each day through our waters for far too long. And replacing 9-5 with a tunnel will only keep our Great Lakes at risk. We know a tunnel would take 7 to 9 years to build. And in the meantime, oil would continue to pump through the damaged pipeline. The fact is, Canadian oil company Enbridge Energy cannot be trusted to safely operate the pipeline. One only needs to look at the company's track record. July 26 marked the 9-year anniversary of the Kalamazoo River oil spill, in which Enbridge's Line 6B pipeline burst, causing one of the worst inland oil spills in U.S. history. Cleanup took nearly a decade, and Enbridge was fined hundreds of millions of dollars. And in April of 2018, a tugboat anchor struck Line 5, damaging the pipeline, causing it to leak 800 gallons of mineral oil into the Straits. And just last week, a natural gas pipeline owned and operated by Enbridge exploded in Kentucky. The risk and threat of an oil spill is real, and we cannot afford another close call like last year's anchor strike. Besides leaking oil into our most precious natural resource and disrupting the surrounding ecosystem, a Line 5 oil spill would also devastate our northern Michigan economy. This is something we all must care about. The state's own risk analysis found that more than 400 miles of shoreline would be impacted by a worst-case oil spill, and the cost of nearly $2 billion. The bottom line is oil pipelines do not belong in the Great Lakes, period. And the only way to truly prevent a catastrophic oil spill in our most precious natural resource is to shut down Line 5 immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning. Bruce Moore, 3363 Summerleaf Drive, Traverse City. I'm in Commissioner LaPointe's district. In the MERC report, I have a question about the distribution by institution portion, and in particular, the assets held by an entity called Class. I have no idea what that entity is, and I would like clarification on that. Commissioner LaPointe, when we met for coffee at the Pie Company, you expressed significant frustration with the cost of our jail operations and the mental health of inmates after they come out because it's an exceptionally depressing place. I agree with you on both counts. You also expressed frustration at that this was not something that came up during commission meetings. I am also in agreement with you on that. The Line 5 issue on today's agenda, it's not a county issue. It is a distraction from the very pressing problems that the county has in front of it. And I urge you to vote on this issue, not on whether you think the resolution is useful or not, but because this distracts from important county business. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Good morning.
Hi. I'm Anna Norris, 2022 Chelsea Lane, Traverse City, Michigan. So I'm also speaking about Line 5, and I think about how you can't be just a little bit pregnant, right? Likewise, you can't have just a little bit of an oil spill. An oil spill here would be catastrophic. Enbridge has a history of devastating environmental damage in the state of Michigan and elsewhere. Enbridge has a history of withholding information from the public and from state officials. So what side of history are you going to choose to be on? Are you going to risk our Great Lakes, our environment, our people, our economy, or are you going to preserve and save our Great Lakes, our environment, our people, and our economy? History will remember your choice. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Kyle Jasper, 1202 South Union Street, Traverse City. So normally I'd be working right now, but since I heard last night that there was a proposal to support Enbridge's Line 5, I thought I'd come hang out with y'all this morning instead. As a student of Eastern Michigan University's Environmental Science and Society program, this concerns my scholastic career and beyond, as well as my livelihood as a resident of this great state. As Michiganders, Great Lakes knowledge is practically ingrained into our DNA, so you all probably know that the Great Lakes account for 20% of the world's and about 90% of the United States surface fresh water. The Great Lakes Commission states that the Great Lakes system provides drinking water for 48 million people, and the lakes directly generate 1.5 million jobs and $60 billion in wages annually. Our beautiful area is not only invaluable to our environment and our health, it's also a major economic driver for our state, our region, and our country. According to Enbridge.com, Line 5 supplies 55% of Michigan's statewide propane needs. Now that sounds like a lot, but according to the United States Energy Information Administration, less than 10% of Michigan homes are heated by propane. So there are less than 4 million households in Michigan, according to Michigan.gov. 10% of that is less than 400,000, and 55% of that is less than 220,000 households heated by propane, which Enbridge supplies. If you want to do the math to figure out how many of those households are in our county, be my guest. Now, that's not an ignorable number, but there are other heating options for households as a general rule. We do not, however, have other options when it comes to water, and I know we're not sucking water out of the lakes with a straw, but a healthy lake system means a healthy groundwater system. Any way you look at it, the pros and cons of Line 5 do not outweigh the cons. Things like $60 billion in wages for people who depend on the lakes for jobs could well be in jeopardy if Enbridge had another mishap like the one that spilled 1.7 million gallons of oil in Minnesota in '91, or when they spilled 1 million gallons into the Kalamazoo River in 2010, or when one of their lines blew up in Kentucky less than a week ago, killing one person. I know what you're thinking, but Kyle, Line 5 is 119 miles away from this very building. There's no way 30% of the employment attributed to tourism in Traverse City, according to TraverseCity.com, would be negatively affected when the pipeline has an issue. And it might not be. But according to the University of Michigan's Water Center, a spill from Line 5 could spread as far west as Beaver Island and as far southeast as Rogers City in only 20 days. So it begs the question as to why we would support putting communities like ours in harm's way. Think about the cost and range of environmental damage that still exist from disasters like the Deepwater Horizon's explosion. As someone who appreciates fiscally conservative ideology, I don't think it makes sense financially to risk the cost of cleanup or the revenue loss from tourism to keep Line 5 active, especially when it goes against the will of your constituents. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Hi, my name is Burma Zerv, and I'm at 20334 Maple Street in Lake Ann.
Most Michiganders are against Line 5, and the only reason why Enbridge is working towards a tunnel is because of that pushback. It is their bottom dollars that is making them choose this route. In lieu of the last week's Enbridge gas explosion in Kentucky, the 9th anniversary of over a 1 million gallon spill in the Kalamazoo River, which I'll remind you took 17 hours for them to turn off, the 30-some spills that Enbridge Line 5 has already had, knowing that there are over 400 waterways that this line crosses besides our beloved Lake Michigan, besides the anchor incident causing dents in both the lines, the fact that the bracings that were required by the 1953 agreement of every 75 feet have never all been there. You call this Canadian company Enbridge Energy reliable? I say hell no. They have already talked about sending heavy crude oil through the tunnel from Alberta tar sands. You know what this effect is? It puts more carbons and methane pollution out that will change the climate at a much faster rate than has ever occurred. Jobs, you say? I've read the number, something around 200, compared to the 40 million people in Michigan who depend on that water for drinking, not even considering other bordering states, including Canada, that will be affected by the breach in that line. Running Line 5 while they do a rush job on a tunnel is the worst thing for our state. You say zero chance of a leak. Enbridge has lines all over our country, and Line 5 is not the first to leak. We in our county need to stand behind the Mackinac Bridge Authority, the Mackinac Island, and the tribes standing against this line and the tunnel for once and for all. Support our governor and attorney general who have our best interests in mind rather than Snyder who threw us under the bus. It is more important to keep our water than the oil and fossil fuels that in 10 to 20 years will be going down while clean energy will take over. A 99-year lease? Forget it. It is our planet that we need to have at the forefront of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Burma. Morning.
Good morning. I'm Rick Brown, 234 Fairlane Drive, Traverse City. And I don't know where quite to begin. 2 months ago today, I retired, and it's been a full-time job keeping up with some of the harebrained ideas that come out of 4 people in this meeting. First of all, I am totally opposed to the resolutions, both 11C and 11D, but I primarily want to talk about 11D, the Line 5 resolution. The amount of potential harm a leak or a spill could cause and affect Grand Traverse County is just staggering. From an environmental standpoint, from a public health standpoint, and from an economic standpoint. I'm going to read a little bit from my letter that I sent you yesterday. Imagine aquatic features in the bay covered with thick, slimy oil. Imagine countless dead fish and other wildlife rotting on the shoreline. Imagine Traverse City and its neighboring areas losing their primary water source. Imagine the collapse of tourist bookings in area hotels and short-term rentals and resorts, and the domino effect that would have on restaurants, wineries, brew pubs, tours, the airport, which you're in charge of, events, etc. Is this proposed resolution really worth risking the county's future, given what's happened 10 years ago in the Kalamazoo River Valley or just last week in Kentucky? Lastly, I'm going to raise this issue. I do feel that the chair should recuse himself from voting on this, since he owns or is co-owner of a business that is a gas station and a fuel retailer. I think there is a potential conflict of interest there. Please vote against this as well as the other resolution on the census. Don't be a fossil fool. Vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Henschel and fellow members of the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. I am Kelly Thayer. I live at 831 James Street in Frankfort. I am the Deputy Director of FLOW, for Love of Water. FLOW is Great Lakes Law and Policy Center based in Traverse City on Front Street, working to protect our public trust waters across the entire Great Lakes watershed. I've come this morning to comment on the Line 5 resolution that's proposed. It starts with an error concerning the age of Line 5, which is not 65 years old, and flows from there with a series of errors. Since 2013, Flo and its team of lawyers, scientists, engineers, and an international risk expert have studied increasing threats to our Great Lakes, drinking water, pure Michigan economy, tribal rights, and way of life from Line 5 in the Straits of Mackinac, and more recently, the proposed oil tunnel. Just last November, during the lame duck legislative session, Flo's leadership testified in front of the State of Michigan House Committee regarding the clearly unconstitutional nature of the oil tunnel bill that proposed to give Enbridge, a Canadian company, access to our public waters and bottomlands for 99 years. In March, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel found that the tunnel bill was in fact unconstitutional. In early June, Enbridge sued the state of Michigan to uphold that tunnel legislation, and in late June, the state of Michigan sued Enbridge to revoke the easement from 1953, allowing conditionally Enbridge to pump oil through the twin pipelines in the Straits. Attorney General Nessel's lawsuit alleges that Enbridge's continued operation of Line 5 in the Straits violates the public trust doctrine, is a common law public nuisance, and violates the Michigan Environmental Protection Act based on potential pollution, impairment, and destruction of water and other natural resources. It is critical for the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners to understand that with the proposed resolution in your packet, the board is being asked to interfere in ongoing litigation between the state of Michigan and Enbridge. Consider that. In addition, there are at least 4 other lawsuits actively against Enbridge and Line 5. Therefore, this type of resolution, we believe, is misguided and not in Grand Traverse County's nor the public's interest. Why would the Grand Traverse County Board take a leap of faith in supporting a Canadian company, oil pipeline company, whose alternative diverts attention from the real problem, which is the bent, cracked, and encrusted pipelines lying in the open water of the Mackinac Straits? For the last 6 years, Flo has studied Line 5 and more recently the proposed oil tunnel. It is a clear and present danger to the public waters of the Great Lakes and will continue to decay while a tunnel is studied. Enbridge has a failed track record in Michigan. The oil tunnel will not protect the 400 other crossings of water in this state.
Thank you very much.
We ask you to reject this resolution
Thank
and
you.
to include our comments in the public record and the minutes.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm back in the room where I used to sit.
Well, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And I used to sit in on agenda-setting meetings as the, pardon me?
Your name?
Oh, my name is Tom Mayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
My name is Tom Mayer. I live in Traverse City, and I'm a former member of this board for 2017 and 18. And I sat in on agenda-setting meetings, and I, wish that this meeting here today, the resolution read a little bit differently, that the resolution read, resolution in opposition of Line 5 tunnel, whereas Enbridge's Line 5 has been operating safely and reliably in Michigan for more than 65 years. But the federal government Pipeline Safety Administration has never shut down a pipeline, never. They don't actually shut down pipelines, this would be a pipeline to shut down. There is no end-of-life plan documented anywhere. Up until the mention of a tunnel, Enbridge didn't have anything documented as to how long this pipe would last or how long it should last. And the state and the federal government have no regulation on the lifetime of a pipeline. If waves are greater than 2 or 3 feet or the water is frozen, the spill cleanup will not work. And there is always ice in the winter in the Straits, and there is a lot of shipping traffic, and there's just lots of reasons why the pipeline is in jeopardy. And all 3 of those things that I learned came from a U.S. Senate field hearing in Traverse City on August 20th of 2018. It was a very powerful meeting, and it sort of changed my mind that, it was hopeless actually, that the risk of the pipeline rupturing or leaking was going to be the reason that the pipeline got shut off, and not before that. Your resolution, I don't need to continue reading it, but these people, the safety tests, most of them have been self-policed. They're not done by outside agencies. The jobs just doesn't match up with how many jobs would be lost. I just think that the resolution should say in opposition, and you should be getting all the other 80-some counties in Michigan to sign that resolution, not this one. And that should have been the matter of the agenda-setting meeting, that you had that resolution and not this one, because obviously this one isn't what the public, I don't think we're going to hear from anybody from the public today who agrees with this. And you should be going in the other direction and leading the way instead of causing this kind of a disruption. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Amy Yee. I live at 13770 Center Road in Traverse City. I'd like to address Resolution 2029 in support of the Line 5 tunnel. I would like to point out the different things that have happened to address the safety of the pipeline. Last year, Senator Gary Peters held a public hearing in which it became known that Enbridge was lying about the safety of Line 5. They were stating that the pipeline was safe when indeed it was not. As was pointed out by the Coast Guard, that there was not a proper response time. And Enbridge did finally come around to stating that, yes, indeed, that there was not a proper response time in case there was an oil spill. I would also like to point out that numerous citizens have actually come forward as of 2013 to point out the different risks to the pipeline. In 2013, a diver working on behalf of the nonprofit National Wildlife Federation inspected the Line 5 pipelines at the Mackinac Straits lake bottom. Line 5 was found to be missing support structures, the original layers of protective coating. The original 7 layers of protective coating had worn down to 1 to 2 layers. There were several dents and deformities that were found. And also, most oil leaks along Line 5 had been reported by residents. And so this is, these are not reports by Enbridge. These are reports by citizens of Michigan. I would like to read, as far as a tunnel, I understand that the resolution is to support a tunnel which would house the pipeline under the lake bed. I would like to read to you a letter that was written by the American Transmission Company. This is dated May 1st on 2019. The American Transmission Company sent a letter to the Chippewa-Ottawa Resource Authority, or CORA, stating that a utility tunnel in the Straits of Mackinac is not an acceptable solution for the American Transmission Company. In this letter it states, in regard to safety, that ATC does not believe that installing high voltage electric lines in close proximity to high pressure oil or gas lines is a good idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Amy. Good morning, Ann.
Ann Rogers, 1236 Peninsula Drive, and a citizen of the city, the county, and the U.S., and also co-chair of NEMIAC, Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council. Over 5 years ago, Oil and Water Don't Mix was organized to protect the Great Lakes from a 66-year-old deteriorating Pipeline 5 under the Straits of Mackinac. Over 27 environmental groups, 9 native tribes, many businesses, including breweries, cities, and counties, joined the effort. This effort continues to oppose any threats to our precious fresh water, including the tunnel Enbridge now wants to build. The Traverse City City Commission and Grand Traverse County Board were among those who sent resolutions in opposition to the pipeline. Are you aware that Line 5 pumps nearly 1 million gallons per hour under our streets and under the other 640 miles to Sarnia, Ontario? Do you care that most people in Michigan get their drinking water from Lakes Michigan and Huron? Do you care about our economy that's based on tourism and agriculture? Does anyone care about the Ausable River? The pipeline goes under that river and under more than 600 miles of forests, streams, and 20 other rivers. Why do we allow a Canadian company to use our state to pipe oil from Canada to Canada and leave us with all the risk? Is it because the fossil fuel industry has helped in your election? Or have they promised to help in the next one? The Great Lakes are not a renewable resource and must be protected from polluting by every means possible. About 5 years ago, the city and the county boards passed resolutions to shut down Line 5. Don't renege on that resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Marty Alvarez. I'm from the Sofo District in Traverse City. Do I need to say more about my address, or can I do that privately? This is in regards to the Pipeline 5. The Enbridge Company from Canada knows the days are numbered for this 66-year-old pipeline built before the Great Lakes Submerged Lands Act was adopted. So they didn't need a permit, and they didn't need to ensure to all of us that the pipeline wouldn't pose a threat to the waters, the very beautiful waters surrounding us that we love so much here in the Great Lakes state of Michigan. Today, in 2019, I hope I'm not being too loud. I might be a little
You're fine.
nervous,
You're fine.
but I am speaking on behalf of lots of people, lots of wildlife, and Mother Earth. Today, in 2019, this pipeline, it wouldn't be built. Michiganders would not approve the construction of this pipeline with all that is known about the oil spills, the leaks, the pipe corrosion, and the punctures. Enbridge has a history directly tied to such, with like over 1,200, or all the number these wonderful people have been giving you of the spills and the leaks and all of that going on. We can't afford to allow the pipeline to operate, tunnel or not, because what is the response time for the Coast Guard to get to that spill, especially in the wintertime when everything is frozen over? The health of the Great Lakes is counted on by everything from, as everyone has said, tourism, fisheries, shipping industry, and Michigan agriculture. And the Great Lakes contain 20% of the world's fresh water, as Ann and everyone else has been saying. And this is water for people to drink. And not just the people, but sustaining our wildlife, because that crazy pipeline, it crosses through the Straits of Mackinac, down 400 rivers, streams, wetlands, 10 miles of wetlands. Oh, I just know today you're going to make the right decision, Commissioners. Come on. All are at risk when the luck of Enbridge runs out. It's going to run out. The luck's going to run out, and we're going to have ourselves a big eruption. And we're invested in our pristine waters so that the future children, not only of Michigan, but of the world, can enjoy and utilize the benefits of clean water. So the decision's in your hands, that you will continue to be responsible stewards of our Great Lakes for the generations to come. And history, we're going to look back on you with praises for your decision today. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Marty. Good morning.
Good morning. Holly Bird, resident of Cedar Run Road and one of the member of the oldest residents of this land, thousands of years. I'm coming to voice my opposition to the proposed resolution in support of the Line 5 tunnel. First of all, I object to the way it came about. It came under cover, and it was a last-minute ad by someone who is probably aware that one of its people in opposition, one of its commissioners would not be here, and perhaps the swing vote would also not be here. It seems a little sneaky. Second of all, commissioners should be committed to the best interests of their residents, of their community. There shouldn't be a consideration of special interests. I agree that there's a couple of commissioners here who should recuse themselves from any vote on this, whether it's as a gas station manager or otherwise. We see you.
Point of order, it's her turn.
Number 3, OnBridge is not a company that operates in good faith. They cannot be trusted. Their track record is absolutely clear on this. Kalamazoo River is still not cleaned up, and its residents continue to suffer. If you don't believe me, ask one of them. I don't think you can support a resolution with OnBridge before you talk to some of their victims. That is not due diligence. Any politician that contracts with OnBridge is playing dirty politics. Number 4, the Treaty of Washington, the law which prevails over this state, over the waters, and state law is subject to, requires the protection of the Great Lakes for all the tribes under the Cora Agreement. I think you heard Ms. Yee mention that before. I see one of our esteemed elders here as well to help support this idea. Part of our 7 sacred agreements with the land is that we would not allow the digging under the water of more than a hand's width. Any proposed tunnel is a violation of our agreement with the land. It's a violation of the treaty. Are you proposing to violate the treaty? Because that's what this resolution is doing. Second of all, I know some of you aren't particular friends with the tribes, but I want to remind you of who we are. We're the 2nd to 3rd largest employer in the area. We help build your roads. We give money to your schools, to your nonprofit organizations. We give health care to a great many people and benefits to a lot of the residents. We do that despite years of oppression. We do that because we believe in our community and we care about it. And that's why we're speaking out today. We have a job to do, which is to protect our future, to protect your children. Mr. Jewett, we're trying to protect your children. Second of all,
Thank you very much.
One more thing.
Your time is up, ma'am.
That's fine. Your constituents
Your time
are
is up, ma'am.
overwhelmingly
Your time is up, ma'am. Everyone
in
gets the same
support
amount of time.
of taking out Line 5 and against the tunnel.
You're out of
Please
order,
listen
ma'am.
to them and represent your community.
Ma'am,
Thank
out of
you.
order. Thank you.
Hi,
Good morning.
Kate Dahlstrom, 437 Eastwood Shores, Traverse City. I'm here, I support pretty much everything that's been said, and I just wonder if you've listened to the Michigan Energy Commission. We listened to a speaker recently who said they've already have plans in place to get energy to the Upper Peninsula without a tunnel. But I'm really here in regard to the resolution regarding the census. And I believe that was authored by Commissioner Klaus. And in light of the recent Supreme Court decision striking down that question from the 2020 census, I assume everyone here has read that decision in its entirety. A show of hands, who's read it?
This is public comment, not a dialogue. Thank you.
You don't think that's relevant to this question, why the Supreme Court of the United States thought that question regarding citizenship should not be on the census? You have a resolution here to recommend that it be on a census, and the Supreme Court has just made a decision. Do you know, Commissioner Klaus, who was the main organization that argued with the Trump administration on why it should not be on the census? You've
Please direct your
authored.
comments to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hensel, you didn't author it, but do you know who the organization was that argued with the administration on why they should not include it in the census?
This is not a dialogue, this is public
Oh, it's
comment.
not. Can I have the dialogue later? when you
Absolutely. I'd be
get
glad
to
to
that?
do
Well,
after the meeting.
I'll tell you who it was. It was the U.S. Census Bureau. They are not considered a partisan organization. They are very neutral. Their researchers said that at least 6 million qualified individuals would not answer the census. Do you understand that there are a lot of families in Traverse City, in Grand Traverse County, who are citizens but may have in their family unit an individual who is not, but because of that one person, that whole family group would not answer a census? If you had that question on the census Bureau estimated 6 million valid citizens would not answer it. And you're sitting here, the Supreme Court said it's not a good question because the Census Bureau has said many people that should be answering it won't answer it. And you're recommending, I believe this resolution should be withdrawn or voted down at least until you do your research. It's
Thank you very
inaccurate,
much.
it's divisive, and it's totally politically motivated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. Nick Beetleston, 1588 Driftwood Drive. I had to write it down. Small business owner, registered Republican, veteran, red meat enthusiast. I wanted to first thank our commissioners. I'm sure you really wanted to start your Wednesday by getting yelled at by a riled up public. And thank the staff also. I know the burden for issues like this often falls on you guys. Great public comment about the environmental impacts. But at the end of the day, I think this is overwhelmingly an economic issue. Cranes Detroit has a great article on what some of the negative energy impacts would be for shutting down Line 5, if you believe that reporting. But I and the citizens of Grand Traverse County entrust our commissioners to protect the economic well-being of this county. I can't speak to the entire county, but I know at least for Traverse City, there's over 12,000 tourism-dependent jobs. An oil spill would devastate our tourism economy. Pictures on social media would be enough to change the decisions of Midwestern families who choose to come up here, vacation here, spend their dollars here, cover the cost of living for folks in my age bracket. So while debating on this issue, while the environmental impacts are critical, I would really urge our commissioners to focus on the economic impacts and the economic risk that this aging line puts on our region. One of my favorite Reagan quotes is that hoping somebody somewhere someday will do the right thing is like feeding a crocodile hoping it'll eat you last, but eat you it will. And I think we can kind of look at Enbridge's track record to see that eventually we gonna get ate. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Jade Prang, 3203 South M37, Traverse City. I found out about the Line 5 resolution last night on Facebook, right before I went to work, my third shift at a nursing home. Because of this poor timing, I wasn't able to do more research and prepare something better. I'm very tired and I don't want to be here instead of sleeping in my bed, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone who knows what we have all heard here today about Line 5 could even consider supporting it. I like having clean water to drink and safe lakes to take my 6-year-old niece to swim in. I want her to grow up with the same resources I have been able to enjoy. Please oppose Line 5 resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Jade.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lynn Larson. I live at 2735 Forest Lodge Drive in Long Lake Township. You are all elected to represent your constituents. I think there is no doubt about the fact that this audience, who represent many of their neighbors and residents, are against supporting your resolution on line 5. That's not what I want to talk about, however. I want to talk about the citizenship census question. Article 1 of the United States Constitution, later amended by the 14th Amendment, speaks about enrolling not citizens, but persons. The current administration would have us talk about citizens, clearly in violation of the Constitution. There's absolutely no reason for this commission to take this issue up. It's a purely political situation, and as one of the former speakers mentioned, you have far more important things to deal with for those of us who are residents of this county. I ask you, please do not vote in favor of the citizenship census question. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Peters. I live at 1345 Farmington Drive in Traverse City, which is District 3. I'm here to talk about the Line 5 resolution. I'm a band member of the Grand Traverse Band. I don't represent them any other way. I've lived my entire life, and well, not this is my entire life, but most of my life here in this area. I was born in Charlevoix, Michigan, graduated from Michigan Tech in engineering, worked for General Motors and retired from General Motors. And I've always wanted to be back here because Lansing isn't like Traverse City or any place like that. So I'm back here. I've got 13 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren. And that's probably one of the main reasons I'm here, because I'm opposed to the resolution for the Line 5 issue that you're dealing with today. I think it's really important that we take that stewardship and understanding what the responsibilities are, like it was said before in the Treaty of 1836, Treaty of Washington. We didn't have a lot of people here in Michigan until about the 1850s. So that's like 170 years that we've been here. And part of that treaty and negotiation is to be caretakers of this beautiful area. My dad was a World War II veteran in the Pacific Theater. And he said he traveled all over the world, but no place was like this place. And it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. I think that it's important for grandchildren and 7 generations that we do that. We address those things and do the best that we can morally, and do that so that we can protect that. I was a manufacturing project planner when I had my engineering career, so I know a lot about buildings and maintenance, and I know that those types of issues have a lot of flaws in them, and they can't be perfect. And so I think that it's really important that we address that. We're lucky to have that line last 60 years without major problems for the Great Lakes. The history of my family comes from a little island that's west of Beaver Island. It's called High Island. My grandfather, his name was Joe High. And we lived there for many, many eons. And we were able to have our families, feed our families from the fish that was in the waters that were up there. So we had a big dependency on the waters. In about the 1870s, the Irish came because the Erie Canal was opened up. And they came directly from Europe, directly into Lake Michigan. All of a sudden, in around 1850s, we had lots of people that were here. Within 20 years, High Island was fished out. They sent those barrels of fish all over the world. And so our people had to move off of that island, and they came to Charlevoix. And that's where I was born, in Charlevoix, Michigan. So I think that this beautiful area that we have is really important. In our culture, they say that the lake and the water is a being, Nebe. It is the first being that was on Mother Earth. So I appreciate your listening to me today, and I hope that you understand how vital this is to our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Is there anybody else for public comment at this time?
Good morning. My name is Autumn Sletter, 8697 East Fouch Road. I'm a transport. I moved to Michigan about 13 years ago. And I'm not sure what he said his name was, but he is very correct in saying that this place is very special. I hope that all of you recognize how special this place is, and I hope that you really are listening to the people that are taking the time out of their day to come and stand up for your water. That is one thing that we know connects all living things is water. We all need water. And the risk is just not worth the profit. So I don't know if any of you are benefiting from voting for this proposition, but I think that you really need to think about what the risk is and the people that have come here to show up and how much it means to us. Traverse City is a beautiful place, and the Great Lakes are a very special area. There's not any place else like this in the world that has this much fresh water just surrounding us, and it's up to us to take care of it. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Autumn.
Thank you.
Okay, last call for public comment. Seeing none, we're going to move on in our agenda. Next item is the approval of our business agenda. All been provided that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove item 11D. I did not realize until today that we were not going to have a full board here. I'd like it to be in front of the full board, so I would ask that it be on our next meeting agenda.
Okay.
And I would like to remove 11C so that the full board as well can.
Okay. All right. So we've had a request to remove item 11D and 11C.
I move to approve the agenda with removal of 11C and D.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the agenda without those two items.
Support.
Support by Kafia. So moved by Klaus, supported by Kafia to approve the agenda without items 11C and D. Those are the two resolutions, the census resolution on page 404 and the line 5 resolution on 406. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So we'll move forward with our agenda. And the next item is the consent calendar. You want to take 5?
What's that?
Yes.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Keep on going.
'Cause I think there's going to be a lot of commotion with people coming and going. Mr. Forsyth? Let's come back to order. The Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners meeting, August 7th, coming back to order. We are at item 6, the consent calendar. You ready, Bonnie? Go ahead.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive. Number 1, County Treasurer's second quarter investment report. Number 2, Department of Health and Human Services minutes of May 29th. Number 3, Department of Health and Human Services minutes of June 25th. Number 4, Employee Recognition second quarter 2019. B, approvals. Number 1, Jury Board appointment. Number 2, Healthy Future Services Agreement Amendment Number 14. Number 3, Phone, Local Long Distance Service Contract. Number 4, Commission on Aging, Taxi Contracts. Number 5, 911 Board of Directors, Ratify Appointments. Number 6, MERS Annual Actuarial Valuation Report.
Okay, would any members of the board like anything removed? Commissioner Lapointe?
Under B3 and B6, please.
B3 and B6. Anybody else? Commissioner Kafia?
A4, please.
A4. All right. Anybody else? Any members of the public like anything removed from the consent calendar? Seeing none. Okay, so I have removal of items A4 by Kafia, B3 and B6 by Lapointe. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Kafia, supported by Klaus. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Klaus?
Yes.
Jewett?
Yes.
Kofia?
Yes.
Lapointe?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes. Motion carries. We are on to item 7, special orders of business. A, Networks Northwest Annual Report presentation with Matt McCauley. Step right up. Page 149 in the packet.
Good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
I thought everyone was here for me, but I guess not. My name is Matt McCauley. I'm CEO of Networks Northwest. Quick elevator speech at Networks Northwest. We are a public agency serving Northwest Michigan, Emmett County, south to Missaukee County, west to Manistee, and everything in between. It's a landmass about the size of Connecticut, and there are 190 units of government that operate within that 10-county region. I'm not going to go through this page by page. I know that time is very important this morning, so I'll just be somewhat brief. I encourage everyone to look at this at your leisure. It is a good mix. Obviously, I'm biased, but I believe a good mix of data, information, and stories. We were purposeful a few years back to include stories from many of our neighbors and clients as part of this because they understand the services that we bring to the community oftentimes better than we do because we're often more data focused. The agency itself is really divided into 3 different buckets: talent, business, and community. We're likely best known for our Michigan Works program, part of our talent development. We have Michigan Works service centers in Petoskey, Cadillac, Manistee, Kalkaska, and here in Traverse City. You'll see on page 4 that even in a low unemployment environment that we're in right now, sub 4%, that over 39,000 individuals visited our Michigan Works service centers last year. It's a very significant number. And of that, we had over 870 veterans served. One of our primary goals as an agency is to assist our veterans who are coming home and to help them find employment that best suits the skills and education that they received while in service. On page 7, skipping ahead a little bit, talking about a relatively new program. However, I think it's probably the oldest workforce development program known, is the apprenticeship program. That, as we all know, that oftentimes a high school degree or equivalency is not enough, but there's not a need for a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree for many of the in-demand jobs in our community today. So with state and federal support, we're able to provide apprenticeship programs throughout the region. Everything from winemaking to roofing to office managers. Things that require on-the-job training, but again, not necessarily a formalized degree. On page 8, Jobs for Michigan Graduates. This is a program through the last administration and legislature that is really looking at high school students in such a way where not only to be concerned about them getting a degree, a high school degree, so they can enter into the workforce, but to begin thinking about careers. That oftentimes, as many people in this room know, that conversation about career, about what you're going to do with your life doesn't occur until after high school. So to be able to reach youth earlier rather than later, and to begin talking about what are the career options available to them, both with a high school degree, apprenticeship program, on-the-job training, secondary degree, but again, just being able to think about their post-high school career. On page 11, adult education, there's still a number of individuals, unfortunately, who don't have that core credential for most employment that occurs within this region. When we talk about a high school degree or equivalency, last year we had 81 adults go through that program and receive a degree. And if you ever have the chance, it's one of the most rewarding events you can go to. That a lot of times this is truly a life-changing degree for those individuals. On page 12, the Offender Success Program. One of my favorite words, recidivism. It's looking to reduce the rate of recidivism. These are ex-offenders from the state prison system coming back to their home communities in Northwest Lower Michigan. Previously, that recidivism rate was over 50%. Through this program that looks to provide wraparound services to ex-offenders on employment, housing, transportation, education, access to substance abuse counseling, we have been able to reduce the rate of recidivism to under 30%, so over a 20% decrease, and as a result, saving the taxpayer dollars.
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. On that one, I noticed you're talking about people paroled from state prisons, so I assume you have some connection with the prisons, or when people move back in the community, you're made aware of, or they're informed. How about county jails? You mentioned you cover a number of counties.
Yeah.
You have the same issue, obviously.
It's a great question. This program is, I would say, about 7-8 years old now, and we've had great success. The numbers are there that show that those types of services do reduce the rate of individuals going back to the prison system. So we have been talking with the Department of Corrections and some of our local law enforcement and judges about a more of a localized program, because it's the same type of issues, and oftentimes it ends up being the same individuals. So I think that there's a market and a need to create something more localized for our local system that's based off this. So there's nothing right now, but anticipate something in the coming months.
And if I may just piggyback off of Commissioner LaPointe's, I think, great question. I just want to make sure you're probably already aware, Matt, But there's a local organization called Before, During, and After Incarceration that is looking at this very issue. I believe they're a nonprofit, but hopefully some collaboration
Right.
along those issues. They'd probably have some insights towards
Absolutely.
serving local jail.
Was that the group that applied for the grant money?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
I remember
correct.
specifically saying, person gets incarcerated in the summer.
Right.
They have those closing, they're turned out in February. and
Right.
Yeah.
So again,
Perhaps without
I think
housing.
collaboration would be great with
Yeah.
that. With
Yeah,
that
so just make
organization.
sure that you're aware, and if you'd like me to help facilitate a introduction, I'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you. So moving along, one of the things, moving to page 14 specifically, that the Michigan Works system and the Northwest Michigan Works system prides itself on is that we are a demand-driven system. So what that means is we're out there in the community talking to business owners, visiting them, oftentimes in coordination with the local economic development organization, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, on what are the in-demand jobs right now. And from that conversation, we do one of two things. We play matchmaker, that there might be someone in the community who has that skill set and can fill that role today or tomorrow, or to be able to provide training to an individual who has the willingness and the wherewithal to accept that training and then apply for that job thereafter. As a result, we have a variety of employer services that occur throughout the region and give focus to our business owners within the region. On page 16, what used to be called Skilled Trades Training Fund, Going Pro, this is a state program. Grand Traverse County businesses received over $375,000 from this program last year. This was to give training to employees of companies that have 21st century retooling new equipment to make them competitive in this ever-changing market. Page 16, this documents the different industry. Yes.
Just
Yes,
a
sir.
quick question.
Yeah.
On 16, you talk about the Skilled Trades Training Fund. Obviously, there's a big need in this area for more skilled trades. I was just curious, on Wexford County, the largest recipient of funds and the number of employees trained by a wide margin, 2-3 times the size of Grand Traverse. What's going on in Wexford?
Yeah.
What's going on in Wexford County?
That's a good question. So while these dollars are available to a variety of businesses, there is a focus on manufacturing, that when we're talking about retooling and so on and so forth. And the concentration of manufacturing businesses is greater in Cadillac and Wexford County than it is in Grand Traverse County. There are a number of both locally owned, domestically owned, and foreign-owned manufacturers in Cadillac. And oftentimes people don't realize that, but it is quite a manufacturing hub within our region. So that's why, again, even though the dollars are available to a variety of industries, and you'll see that one below that actually went to a printing press in the Petoskey News Review, that many of those recipients were where our manufacturing sector is most concentrated, and that's Wexford. Page 18, these are the different industry sectors and site visits that we've done with local businesses throughout the region, over 1,100 company visits, and again, working on that demand-driven system and what they need to succeed in terms of workforce today. Switching to business development on the next page, page 19. SBDC is one of our more notable programs. Last year, over $9 million of capital formation came out of that program. If you're not familiar, SBDC provides free business counseling primarily to second stage companies, but also to startups and another demand-driven program that if you come in and speak to one of the SBDC counselors, you want to talk about HR, finance, marketing, what have you, they have services and skill sets and connections to assist. On page 21, the Global Trade Alliance. This is a program that we host in partnership with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Basically, as the title suggests, we have an individual that is in our region working with local companies to expand their book of business by reaching foreign markets. Oftentimes, that's just across the border, Canada or Mexico, but sometimes can be other places across the globe. There was 29 businesses served last year, and as a result of those services, over $21 million of export sales occurred. On page 22,
Matt, quick
yes.
question on that.
Mhm.
Page 21, you have 29 businesses served, 174,805 MEDC staff program. And you, next to it, you have 61% increase, 19%. And I was just curious, compared to what? The prior year?
To the
or-
prior year.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. PTAC on 22. PTAC stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. The federal government is the largest consumer of goods and services on the planet, and it's not even close. This group, these counselors, they work with our business owners to achieve some of those contracts that are available out there. Just a month ago, we had a $4.5 million contract that was secured by Graceland Fruit with the USDA, providing significant economic impact. You'll see in 2018, over $79 million of contracts, federal government contracts came through this region as a result of that program. Lastly, talk a little bit about our community development team. Another demand-driven team. Earlier I mentioned that there's 190 units of government within our region. Most of them are rural. Most of them don't have staff. So when it comes to things like grant writing, master plans, things like that, we're able to assist those smaller local units of government on those types of activities. In addition, we serve as a liaison technical assistance provider to Michigan Department of Transportation. Often in the news these days, but when we're talking about pavement quality and the quality of roads in Michigan, that's a result of our activities and the activities of the local road commissions in Northwest Michigan. On an annual basis, we go out with the road commission, MDOT, and provide a road ranking, a pavement quality ranking to all the federal aid roads within Northwest Michigan. On page 26, something that we're all very familiar with, we've been involved for a number of years in the workforce housing discussion in this region, primarily as a neutral data provider, one who can provide information, non-partial information about the impact of housing, the different types of housing within the region. Sarah Lucas, who was with our office for a long time, formed Housing North, which is now working with the development community on increasing workforce housing within the region. So we're very happy about that and look forward to moving the needle on workforce housing within the region. The last page, just a quick financial summary. We have 2 different audits last year, no significant deficiencies. You'll see that the budget itself has gone down over the years, primarily because the bulk of our funding is in that talent development pool, and there's an inverse correlation between the health of the economy, the unemployment rate, and the dollars we receive. My view that makes a lot of sense. That's the way it should be. But that's why you see that declining revenue, particularly on the talent side. And then lastly, on the back cover, this is our board. It's a true public-private sector governance model. There is a simple majority to the private sector, however, on here. It's a larger board, but when you're looking at such a large region and a perspective of both the public sector and private sector, it's pretty easy to get to 61 members. And it's a dynamic board and one that I think has been functioning very, very well. We're now in the 6th year of this governance model. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Gordy. Gordy has a question.
Being a new commissioner, it seems like every month there's 1 or 2 NGOs that come forward. And I'm amazed at how much activity that goes on in the community, funded through federal, state, and others.
Right.
And can't keep track of them. I notice here that the funding from the counties is rather minuscule, so what, 10 counties contributing 0.6% to your $10 million budget, so it's certainly nothing significant.
The county's appropriation has been $14,210 for as long as I can remember. It's been a fixed amount.
Right, right. Yeah, since 1989, that appropriation has remained the same. While not a large amount, it really demonstrates one, support for the activities and the concept of the agency. So it's what we're able to do with that money and leverage those dollars to achieve additional grant dollars that really drive the agency.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on in our agenda. We are on items removed from the consent calendar, item 8. So we'll start, we'll take them in order. Item A4, pulled by Commissioner Coffia, employee recognition, second quarter 2019, page 17 in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just something I talked a little bit with administration and HR, and this is something that I'm going to ask be included in our consent calendar going forward. And I can't make it to all of these quarterly ceremonies where we acknowledge and recognize the people who make this county a great place to live and make our county government something to be proud of. But I feel like it's important for us to have this, to acknowledge it. And so I'm just going to briefly read who's celebrating their anniversaries and also the Making a Difference nominees and the winner of the Making a Difference Award to acknowledge and thank them. So celebrating 5 years, Mike Rohn, DPW, Ryan Colley, Sheriff's Office, Laura Leisure, Health Department. Celebrating 10 years, Josh Wolf, Sheriff's Office, Cindy Cott, Commission on Aging. Celebrating 15 years, Jason Roloffs, Sheriff's Office, Jim Domagalski, Central Dispatch. Did I get that right? Okay, good. Celebrating 20 years, Kyle Agelski, Sheriff's Office. Celebrating 30 years, Michelle Folkersma, Sheriff's Office. So a thanks and acknowledgement to these folks who have served our county for 5 to 30 years. And then the Making a Difference nominees, I'm just going to read off who they are and then who received the award. So Making a Difference nominees, Jean Mock from Environmental Health, Leslie Marr, Environmental Health, Kelly Plambeck, Sheriff's Office Corrections Division, Veronica Wilson, MSU Extension. And just for reference, this is an award that, I will read it right here. This is an award that is given out quarterly to acknowledge basically excellent employee conduct, yes. And often is someone from the public who nominates or a coworker. So the winner of that award this quarter was Veronica Wilson of MSU Extension. And so, again, I just think it's appropriate that we lift up and recognize the people who are here every day, not just, once every other week like the commissioners. Although we do a good job, these are the folks who are in the day-to-day. So thank you to all of them.
All right, I'll just comment. I know a lot of these people, we have nearly 500 employees, so like most of the commissioners don't have interactions with everybody, but I did have the pleasure of doing a ride-along with Kyle Legelski, who's celebrating 20 years, and I recommend that to any commissioner. Kyle has just a great temperament. You know, he did four traffic stops and only gave one ticket while I was with him. So I think we all make mistakes. It's great to get a warning. But I recommend you do a ride-along with Kyle.
Captain Clark has offered it to all of us a couple times, so I'm hoping to take him up on that.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
asked if I could carry a gun, and he wouldn't let me, so I'm not going.
No comment.
May I comment,
Yeah,
Commissioner Henschel?
Sure.
So we have north of 500 employees, and most of the focus that is public-facing is typically critical of the county government or the services we provide. So when we do get nominations, especially from the public, but regardless if it's a supervisor or a department head, recognizing the efforts of the employees, it really is pretty cool to recognize them publicly. So I thank Commissioner Coffey for this, but also if you want to come in at those meetings anytime, you're welcome to present and congratulate them. But we do a lot of good work, and it's nice to see some of it recognized. So thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Or a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Moved by Coffey, supported by Jewett, to receive and file the employee recognition second quarter 2019. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on to item B3, phone local/long distance service contract, item 32 in your packet. Commissioner LaPointe.
Read through this, I guess I got a basic, she is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
You have proposals in to replace your current PRI circuits with the going to voice over IP circuits. And you got proposals from AT&T, Charter, and Peninsula Fiber. And you're proposing to go with AT&T, which is 21.9. Charter came in at 16.8, which is about 25% less than the AT&T quote. And pretty much the same service. One difference is the long-distance dialing. AT&T gives you a 27,000 base, and Charter does 20,000 minutes base on long distance, but we're averaging only 14,000, so we're quite a ways under the base. So I guess my question is, why are we going with AT&T when Charter provides basically the same service?
So I have two. First one is our internet also goes through Charter. I just think that it will be a wise decision then that the phone is not in the same provider. In case something happened to Charter service, then we'll have our internet down and the phone down at the same time. And also, this brought to me late. So, and the options kind of limited because we don't have enough time to cancel our contract. And if we switch provider, then the other provider need minimum 4 to 6 weeks to port the number to a new vendor. So, so that's why the decision make it as AT&T for 2 years. And I'm hoping after a year, then we can evaluate and get the proposal done quicker, and we'll have more than just 3 proposals. So that's why my recommendation is AT&T today.
So if we had gone out for bid earlier, we could have met our deadline. Seems like
yes,
AT&T, since running up against, when the contract expires, what, August?
Yes, August 26th.
I mean, hopefully in the future, we'll do this much more in advance so we don't run up against deadlines where we have to.
Yes, I'm definitely learning. Definitely learning from that. I know it's no excuse. I'm still in this job for 2 years, so when I took over year and a half with no director, I'm still learning with all the contract and keeping up to the date. And I already have a system in place after this happened, and try to pull as much as, paper, still in the paper format of the contract. So I will try my best. It's not going to happen again. But I think ultimately it's still awesome, it's a great deal here because we no longer will use PRI. And we do, we are upgrading our system to able to do a new service. So next time when we switch provider, it'll be a lot easier because it's zip to zip instead of PRI to zip. And still saving the county $16,000, so.
And I assume the phones are all compatible with, so none of the other hardware has to be swapped out with voice over IP?
We're slowly swapping out for IP phone. We're still in the hybrid mode right now. So we're not full. Our system is smart enough to able to change from zip to PRI. So internally, still PRI format, but at least externally surface, we can save money to not using the PRI T1 connection anymore.
But we'll still have it in place, the T1 connection?
Yes, because we had to sign the contract today, after if you guys prove it, and then AT&T will put the SIP in place. Since this is the same vendor, they can do a lot quicker.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Support.
Moved by LaPointe, supported by Jewett, to approve as presented. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thanks, Ming.
Thanks.
All right, and we're on to item B6, MERS Annual Actuarial Valuation Report, page 53 in your packet.
Okay.
And that's Commissioner LaPointe.
Yep, I pulled it off the consent calendar because I've always assumed when we accept something, that means we've read it, we fully understand it, and we approve it, and we kind of go on. I certainly have got a lot of questions, and I'm hesitant to just approve it and just move on. So my recommendation would be that I would approve it under the agreement that we'll have MERS in here within a reasonable period of time to go over this and ask them the appropriate questions that we seem to every year. But I don't want the public to think that we're just putting this to bed and we're moving on, and MERS is still remains, I shouldn't say MERS is a major issue, but the funding of the pension fund is still a major concern, and still a lot of questions.
Okay, so would you think like a study session or
a
presentation?
If all of the board members want to sit in on it, that'd be fine, or if not, we could do an ad hoc that those who would be interested want to sit down and drill into this, and I'm open for suggestions. I would like this body in some way to meet with them and not just rubber stamp this and put it to bed, so.
Okay.
Any other?
Commissioner Jewett?
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate to move this approval to the next month's meeting? This one is a 100-page packet almost, and,
All right.
we had 400 pages here to study, and this is the one I didn't
This
get to.
was a big
but,
meeting.
That would give us some time to look it over, and
And then the other two commissioners will be here, they can see if they'd rather have a, go ahead.
So question for administration, is it possible, I appreciate Commissioner LaPointe's point here, and my question is it possible for us to get someone from MERS to walk through this with us, or does staff want to kind of get questions from us in advance and come prepared to walk us through it? How would be best so that we can make the most of a session where we dig more deeply into this as a board?
Whatever the pleasure of the board is. Tony Regenovich, our local representative, can be here. He lives in the area. I believe Mr. Bott may have already given him a heads up that this question may be posed.
Yeah.
If not, we will, and I'm sure he'd be glad to come and answer questions about the valuation itself. The valuation is a report by MERS.
Right.
They can answer the points that they've made inside the valuation. I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of back and forth dialogue that would influence the report itself.
No.
So
It's
But
more just walking
certainly
us through it.
to be able to answer to it, yes.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I appreciate, it actually, reading my 400-page packet, I glossed over the fact that this was on the consent agenda. I do agree that it deserves its own, it should be on the regular agenda as a discussion item. So thanks to Commissioner LaPointe for that. And I would move that we place this on the agenda for does our next regular meeting seem reasonable with the understanding that someone from MERS will be there to walk us through?
We can ask that that happen.
Okay. Or at the next regular meeting where they can be? Would that be more
That's
appropriate?
more
We want them
appropriate.
here,
But within the
basically.
next.
But within the next couple of
Within the next two
meetings.
meetings.
Sir,
They
you can
can,
ask.
they can. put
So
their
I
person.
so move, if that makes sense to Bonnie.
Okay, we have a motion by
I would
Cuffield,
support that.
supported by Jewett, to move this to the next, one of the next couple meetings and have MERS representative here.
I just have a quick question all around it, and
Yeah.
I'll get off of it. This is for 2018 report. We finally get it, halfway through the year. The one thing that I haven't seen, maybe, and Dean, maybe you've seen it, is on their website, and I haven't looked in the last week or so, they publish all of the counties, or all of their, you can go through and look at all the counties, on how they stack up in terms of their unfunded liability, and where are they going, north or south? Have you seen that yet, or is that out, do you know?
I have not seen it, but we can ask Tony about that
Because
as
I'm always
well.
curious, I know what our number is, and you might feel good or might feel bad about it, but I think it's worth looking at how other entities are progressing as well.
The Michigan Department of Treasury has a report, it's an Excel report and a Word document. Well, it's not a Word document, but they publish a report on all the local units. That's a monster to kind of get your head around too. But
Last
I'll
time I
ask
looked,
Tony.
they didn't have 2018, it was still 2017, so.
We'll just ask Tony.
Okay.
When we have him here to maybe bring that information as well.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're on item, we're done with consent calendar. We're on item 9A1, letter to Grand Traverse Band requesting open discussion about 2% disbursements. It's page 177 in the packet. And Mr. Alger?
Yes. So on June 18th, we had a meeting, I believe that was the meeting at the Health Department, where we revisited the way that we were presenting the 2% funding to the tribe. There was discussion about we need to change the way that those grant applications are received and presented to the tribe. Mr. Forsyth and I met with the Grand Traverse Band chairman, Mr. McClellan, their treasurer, and their manager, and it was very clear that they really don't have any interest in changing the way the 2% funding is received or determined. So we followed up with a phone call to their tribal attorney. Mr. Forsyth has had relationship with him in the past, and the conversation went to the Board of Commissioners needs to present some type of formal request to negotiate a change in the way that 2% grants are received and awarded. So we are looking not only for that, but also any suggestions that you may have in the mechanism of receiving the grants and presenting those to the tribe.
Okay. I'll speak on this. This is something, it's been a matter of discussion for several years. I know Commissioner Wheelock has expressed similar concerns. And the one thing in my personal, just looking into this issue, that I haven't been able to kind of come to terms with is this line in the agreement, this consent decree that says each local unit of government shall receive no less than an amount equivalent to its share of ad valorem property taxes, that it would otherwise be attributed to the gaming facility if that site were subject to such taxation. I can't see that, I don't see that happening. If the tribe feels that's happening, I would love to know, how do you figure that? So I would like to open that dialogue. So I will move to instruct staff to send a letter engaging the tribe in discussions of the 2% funding, and also if there are any agreements that this unit of government is not in keeping with the tribes, that they would bring those to us.
Support.
Okay, so motion by Henschel, supported by Klaus. Discussion or comments?
I think we discussed that at length at the meeting.
I think we
It's-
have.
It's, I'm not an attorney, that's the good news. But it seems like fairly straightforward language, and it's, I'd be interested. I don't expect anything, but just get their response of, please help us with trying to understand this language, and so I don't have high expectations, but it's,
Yeah.
I would support that.
Okay,
I have
Go ahead.
thought. A couple things. One, I appreciate that this is being suggested and brought forward well in advance of when the nonprofits who apply in good faith every cycle are going to start their process. And my hope would be that we could come to whatever resolution we're going to come to long before and give them adequate notice, because it's a lot of work. I've worked in nonprofits. It's a lot of work to put together a proposal, and unfortunately, I think we rescued it at the last minute, but that was a really bumpy ride for those nonprofits, and unnecessarily so. So let's try to avoid that. And also, again, with respect to the fact that we are dealing with a sovereign nation and a partner, a good one, that we need to maintain relationships with. My last point is this is an agreement, whatever we may think, and I'm certainly not an attorney either and won't pretend to be. This is an agreement between the state of Michigan and a sovereign nation, correct? Not Grand Traverse County. So we can try to look for some clarification here, but ultimately, this is a fight that is way above our pay grade and our authority. So it's great to get some clarification, but let's do better next time, y'all.
yeah. Well, the agreement, when I read it, there's no mention, with regards to the 2% funding, there's no mention of nonprofits. There's mention of government bodies, local governments that are providing services, providing courts, providing,
Yep.
fire and safety and all the things that a local government provides.
Absolutely.
And it's, to me, it's clear that this funding is meant to help pay for the things that we all receive, including the tribe.
Yep, and that's the argument. But my point is, we have had relationships. This county had a webpage, public-facing, and a good faith relationship with nonprofits over many years. That they do good work in our community, and I just want us to be a good partner.
Okay,
That's all.
fair enough. All right, any other comments?
Yes, so the conversation we had with the band was not an unpleasant conversation. We did express a couple of options in the way specifically what Commissioner Henschel just brought up, and there was feedback given to us that indicated that was not something they desired. They believe that they don't have to do this. They believe that what they are doing is appropriate. So I think that the direction from Grand Traverse County, and not only we need to have a discussion with them that is recognized by the Board of Commissioners, excuse me, but we also have to come up with a plan. Because the 2% grants are coming in October, I think. We will have to have a plan in place on how this board will present those applications to the tribe. We can come up with some options and present them to you at a later date.
I don't think we want to do anything, nothing's going to happen between now and October. So I think we have to, the message has to be, it's going to be status quo. I mean, we have some questions about the way it's handled, but we don't, like I agree, we don't want to go through what we did the last time. So it's, until we come up with something different, we'll proceed as we have in the past.
Commissioner LaPointe, if that is the direction of the board, it would be helpful to have that motion, if that's your desire, so that we have clear direction to process these applications under a status quo scenario, as you say.
That would be I don't know if you're looking for a.
We already have a motion on the floor.
We have a
Okay.
What is the motion?
And to your point, Mr. Forsyth, that I agree with Commissioner LaPointe, and I think it would be fair to our colleagues to make that kind of a motion with the full board
So once
here.
you act on this motion on the floor, if that's your desire, if we could have that second motion following it.
So the motion on the floor is to instruct staff to send a letter in open dialogue with the tribe officially regarding the 2% funding, and also any other agreements that may exist between this county and them that they feel we're not living up to. Is that clear?
That
If
that
there's-
is clear.
If there is anything that we've agreed to in the past, some, obscure treaty that we don't know about, I'd love to hear about it. If we're not living up to anything, I want to know in their mind.
Yeah.
Okay? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Commissioner LaPointe?
Okay, I'd like to make a move that until something changes and there's complete agreement between the board and the tribe in the way in which the 2% will be handled, we will retain the status quo of the NGOs making their submission to the county as they've done in the past.
Support.
Okay, moved by LaPointe, supported by Jewett, to continue accepting 2% grants, applications, which technically not a grant. They don't even call it a grant. They call it funding or allocation.
We do on our website. Just
Right, but on their
saying.
website and on our paperwork, it doesn't say grant.
Yeah.
But, all right, so moved by LaPointe, seconded by Jewett. Discussion. I'm not going to support this because in reading this, I don't believe that is the intention of this agreement. But that's just my vote. Mr. Klaus?
If we pass this, what's the incentive for the tribe to come and talk to us? Because we're just saying that we're going to go ahead and receive and.
Well, I don't think this or anything's going to be an incentive, to be honest with you. And I think all we're doing is putting the people, the NGOs in the middle and putting a squeeze on them. And I don't think we need to hold them hostage on this.
I don't think it's
I would think the first amendment that was made of, let's sit down with them and just have a face-to-face discussion, and there may be some clarification we're not aware of. It seems fairly clear what the reading is, and we'll get an indication of their willingness to move, and as was said, this is an agreement between the state and the tribe, and we would probably be better off petitioning the state to move forward
Right.
than us talking to the tribe. I mean, in reality, if you honestly thought there was going to be a change in direction, this is an agreement between the state and the tribe. We should be, again, petitioning the state. But to talk to them and maybe get some insight and clarification, I know that commissioners for the last 20 years have been questioning this and have not got anywhere, so we'll see if Mr. Henschel has any better luck.
It's definitely worth looking into. It because it's an agreement between the state and the tribe doesn't mean we couldn't try to enforce it. From the language that Commissioner Henschel read, it does sound like we're an intended beneficiary of that agreement. That's a lot of money. So, it's worth looking into.
Okay. Commissioner Jewett?
Could we add a friendly amendment to Commissioner LaPointe's here, just the status quo for this round, this upcoming round of 2019?
That's what I was looking for.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that way,
To Mr. Klaus's
because we're not
point
going
as
to solve
well.
it before these grants come in
I-
October
I-
and everything.
I can tell you, we did engage in very similar discussions in 2013, and it was a lengthy process. It involved at least 2 more meetings over the course of 6 months. I would expect a similar timeline here. So before we even get a decision from the band as to their position, we probably would get through the grant cycle.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner LaPointe, is that a friendly amendment to you? That your motion is only applies to this next cycle?
I thought that was included in what I said, but I'll
Okay.
agree.
Okay.
I'll accept that friendly
So,
amendment.
the point is clarified, this
As
motion
long
on
as
the
Bonnie
floor
has it.
is to maintain status quo for this one additional grant cycle for October. Okay? Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Jewett?
Yes.
Kofia?
Yes.
LaPointe?
Yes.
Klaus?
No.
Henschel?
No. Motion carries. All right. You guys good?
That was 3-2, wasn't it?
Yes, 3-2.
Don't believe that would carry.
All right, we'll let you look at that.
Sorry, I don't believe that would carry. I can look into it in a moment, but that would not be a
It's-
majority of elected and serving.
But it's majority of those present.
Majority of those present for procedural matters.
What are our board rules say?
So 11.2 would be our rule on it. Let's just take a look for a moment.
All right.
Majority of the members elected and serving, however, shall be required for final passage or adoption of a measure, resolution, or the allowance of a claim. This sounds like a resolution to me. So procedural and other questions arising at a meeting shall be decided by a majority of the members present, which would be this. And
President.
so if this was a procedural question arising at a meeting, which to me would be something like an appeal or ruling something out of order, I could see that be a majority of those present. But to me, this is more appropriately characterized as a measure or resolution, which would require a majority of members elected and serving.
And I wondered about that, actually, even just us, we have a quorum, right? But it seemed, am I right, counsel, that any of these other resolutions on our agenda today can't, if they were a 3-2 vote, they can't pass? Because we don't have,
Unless it could be appropriately titled procedural or some other question arising at the meeting.
and that's like motion to adjourn, clear the floor, reconsider, not motion to adopt a
Yeah.
resolution. So
Yeah,
really,
that's fair.
if we have any 3-2, they don't go through. Is that for these resolutions?
I hesitate to say any. That's the reason I'm
Okay.
hesitating.
Okay.
Because, and I know you
I wondered
understand,
about
we're
that
on the
today.
same page. I just
Yeah.
don't want to say something inaccurate.
Sure, I understand.
We've been going another hour now. We're going to take a short recess. I'm going to look at this rule.
Get some
Well,
clarity.
Commissioner LaPointe?
I think instead of going on and wondering the rule, I mean, if we meet again in 2 weeks, we can put it on then. Hopefully we'll have
The full board.
greater attendance.
And it can be brought up again.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think
nothing
anything's going to
stops it.
happen in the next 2 weeks that'll jeopardize
Well,
anything.
yeah, my thought is as long as we have direction from the board that we can handle the 2% grant requests in accordance with the way that we have in the past for one more cycle, that is not resolution, that's direction by the board. I think that, am I correct in saying that we can get that direction from this board and we can give the letter to the tribe in the future? Is that?
Are you saying without a resolution?
Yeah.
But rather just direction from the board?
And we can bring back the letter to the band at the next board meeting, but I think we've got direction from the board with what truly we need to do for this next cycle of grants.
Although, to be fair to my colleagues who are in the minority in this last vote, they're not in agreement. You don't have a full board agreement to give you direction to keep the status quo. And I'm on the side of wanting us to, but
Then I think Commissioner Henschel's correct. We should probably take some time and make sure that we know that before the end of the meeting.
he was combining the two, though.
We didn't combine the two.
No, I know, but Nate was when he was talking about direction from the board. So I would be more comfortable, honestly, waiting until we have our full board to make a vote on the status quo.
I'll just make a
for the
ruling.
grant resolution.
Motion fails. Moving on.
Are we taking the recess?
Do you want one?
That you just mentioned? Yes,
No,
please.
okay.
I would.
All right, 3 minutes.
Thank you.
County Board of Commissioners meeting Wednesday, August 7th. We're back from recess. We are on the agenda. We are at 10A, Drain Commissioner Update. Steve Largent's here.
Good morning.
Steve.
Thank you for having me so soon on the agenda in an effort to get out of here for a 10:30 webinar, but I'm not sure if I'll make that or not, but I appreciate the effort anyway by Chris and staff to get me on early. Also, as you guys know, Wednesdays are our all-staff meeting at the Grand Traverse Conservation District, and then every other Wednesday is our management team, which falls at the same time. So I'd like to attend more board meetings, but it's difficult. So if we can do it sound like a bi-monthly update, that would work well. You know, I think that would be reasonable. So to give you a little bit of update, I'm working with Olson, Bisdock, and Howard to move the other special assessment districts forward, including Duck Lake, Silver Lake, and Old Mission Drains. Duck Lake lake level is still above the court-ordered level. People have been calling me from both Duck and Green Lakes wanting me to let more water out of Duck Lake residents want me to let more water out. Green Lake residents want me to put more boards in, and I haven't had any boards in that dam. The top boards have been out since last September, which is really unprecedented as far as I understand. So I won't be putting any boards in until we get down closer to that court-ordered level, but I will not take out any more boards, which would impact those Green Lake residents downstream. And I talked with the Duck and Green Lake Association president, and he emailed me the same, that he would advise against changing anything with the dam at this point in time, and because levels on both lakes are high. So that's Duck Lake. Silver Lake, we got a price to line the culvert according to the inspection report that was done, that triennial report that was done late last year. The outlet of Cox's Pond, 36-inch by about 300-foot culvert is failing, and so the Dam Safety Division, Eagle, is requiring that that culvert either be lined or replaced. And so to line it, which would be trenchless, with a polymer liner, would be a little over $100,000. And so we're getting a price from Alpers Excavating since they live within that lake level district, on replacing that culvert. So I'll be meeting with them soon on that one. Yeah.
A couple questions. Do you follow county purchasing policy when you're doing proposals like that, or you just?
This is just for estimate purposes. Once we then get into, this is for setting up what this special assessment district, the amount would be that we then go for on that special assessment, then we will follow county purchasing policy. At
The other
that time.
question is, how long before Duck Lake, have you calculated like roughly how long before it comes to normal levels or what people are more used to?
Yeah, it depends on the rain.
Right.
You know,
So if it didn't rain?
If it didn't rain, I would say another 3 weeks to a month yet,
Okay.
Which is going to put us right when I took the boards out last year. So we may not even put the boards in this year at all, So it's pretty unprecedented. So yes, once we do get to that point of actually doing the work, then we go out for the bids. But this does give us something to base our special assessment district on.
Okay.
Old Mission Drain, same thing. So we're working with Olson, Bisdock, and Howard, to move those forward. Any questions on those three before I move on? Okay. Cass Road, the bids are on the shelf, meaning that the contractors are available to the contractors. The bid packets, I should say, are on the shelf. They're available. There's a mandatory pre-bid meeting at 10 a.m. On Monday. That, as you can see on the schedule, is Monday, August 12th, 10 a.m., and that'll be at the Garfield Township Hall. Then the other date that is really of interest is the bid opening. That'll be Thursday, August 29th, again at Garfield Township Hall. And then we would be able to, do the day of apportionment, which is scheduled for here at the, in the training room on Friday, September 6th. And that'll be a day of review for the apportionment. So it will have 10 days after that to clear appeals. And after it clears appeals, then that bid can be, for construction can be let after that. We'll be looking at coming to this board. The earliest would be for full faith and credit support. The earliest would be September 18th, which would be right after it clears appeals, 2 days after it clears appeals on the 16th. Otherwise, the backup date for that is October 2nd. And we had a conference call with the bonds folks, Steve Burke and Roger Sweats, and Dean was on that call yesterday as well. So that is, in a nutshell, we're moving forward as well. So, questions?
Commissioner Jewett.
On the Cass Road drain here, Steve,
Yes, sir.
how many businesses have flooded this year?
I know just in the past month, Eichenhout, and they're back where their inventory is flooded during a storm event, but that was the only one that I've heard of this summer.
How long did that last?
I think it lasted like 24 hours or so. They were out there in knee-deep water, from what I understand.
Okay. I just,
Yeah,
I've been to a lot of township meetings and different stuff, and a lot of people out there talking that this is looking more and more like a road project because of the storm drain, and, we already have a drain in place that, which by your own words here last time you were here, no maintenance records of it, hasn't been cleaned and everything, and this year it's been cleaned, and it's not been flooding and stuff, but, I know people aren't gonna stop you, nor are you gonna change your mind or anything like that, but a lot of people are out there saying it's not needed. We can improve what we have there. We could have done it for a lot less and it not be a storm sewer for the road.
Yeah, and again, as we've had this conversation, if I thought it was, a road project, I would not be involved. This is, it involves the road to do the storm sewer, to put that under and we could do that without expanding the road to 3 lanes. But the road commission is picking up that part of the project to expand it to 3 lanes on their own, at their own cost. As far as, the 10-inch drain pipe that's, Ron's been cleaning out, and this is not the time of year that we're planning for it, planning floods floor. As I've told you in the past, it's the fall when the leaves are off and trees and vegetation is not transpiring or slowing the flow of water. It's winter when conditions are frozen. It's spring, melt and runoff. Those are the times of year that we're putting the system in. And it's also being put in so that it handles large floods that may not occur in the next 5 or 10 years. So this system is put in place and being designed for those large flood events and to handle those large flows during, again, not the summertime, but those other times of year when those floods do happen.
Yeah, on one hand, I would agree with you, but I would also respectfully disagree. I mean, this drain's been cleaned this year and stuff, something by your own accord that has not happened and everything. And I think, just by talking to many constituents, especially people in the assessment district and everything, I think it's, really piss poor to not maintain what we have and see how it works before we jump into a proposed $5, $6, $7 million project. Who knows where it's going to end up, so, I don't see the need right now until we can justify it, just because we can't keep something clean or maintained doesn't justify spending millions and millions of dollars.
And as you know, this was started before me, and it was a group of, including, the township officials and engineers and like that agreed to continue on this path post the previous drain commissioner, and that's what I've been moving forward.
That is correct, but in previous administrations too, there was 4 or 5 different proposals out there that would have probably more than justified, or satisfying this and everything, and, one of them, if I remember correctly, was like 499,000 or something like that, right around that $500,000 mark. But here, as of 2.5 months ago, we had $800,000, just shy of $800,000 already in engineering fees.
Engineering and
You
attorney
know.
fees, yes.
And I mean, that's not counting June, July, or just half of August yet, so. Anyway, I mean, I thank you for being here and giving us your report, but I would say, just from what I'm seeing and stuff, that we can't make a determination that we need that drain because of lack of maintenance.
Commissioner Klaus?
Steve, I was out of town last week, but I stopped and saw the folks at Eichenhout yesterday. And the manager did say that they did have their truck well flooded, and they had water in their storage area. And he also said that came from the roof and the asphalt. And I talked to the yard personnel, and I'm assuming it's part of the drain, but in the back side of the property, in the west side, that had water in it, but it had not crested over the top of it. So they did flood, but it was only because they couldn't take care of their own stormwater on their property like they're supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, correct, and.
It was not a failed drain.
No, it was not caused by that back ditch. It was from the impervious surface runoff, and exactly which, these, micro drains, as they are called, would collect that stormwater from, each and every business and property.
Right, so the drain that's being proposed, the storm sewer, is truly to take care of the roof runoff and the asphalt runoff that should have been taken care of with retention basins. So, and I think that's one of the points that Brad's making as well, is that, you've got 400 people, 400 properties that are going to be helping to pay for Eichenhaus for site design to take care of their stormwater.
It's more than, it's
Right,
more,
I mean,
it's more
it's
than
not
that. I
just
mean, if you
theirs,
go
it's
down
other
and look
ones.
at the
You can go-
pictures, it's more
right,
than just
You can go down
them.
that entire strip.
Right.
And I'd say even the new addition going on there, on the cold storage, they're gonna be reliant on the storm sewer to take care of their
The roof runoff
storm-
and their impervious.
Their rainfall. And, but again, my point is that the 400 people in that district are gonna pay for it. So, anyway, and I've said it before, but just to let public know that Eichenhout was not flooded by a failed Cass Road drain this last.
No, and I totally understand and agree, that is, but this proposed system will serve every property there to handle their stormwater, that those other properties that got flooded in the past will handle that stormwater from, it's not just, this one rain event, but it's for, greater rain events in the future, so. And we don't know how that back drain is going to respond to those large storm events at this time.
Okay, any other questions? We might just make your webinar.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
If the board has no objection, at the break, I was talking to Mr. Moody, who's here about item 11B. If we could do that first. He has a recent surgery. He's supposed to be elevating his foot regularly. I'd like to let that one go first. It should be
Yeah.
a fairly quick one. So if I have no objection, we'll move to item 11B, and then we'll go to 11A. So hearing no objection, we'll go to 11B. Dare Carr, page 403 in your packet. Mr. Moody had sent a letter that didn't make it into the packet for some reason. It just should be on page 404, but it's not there. So all we have is just the action request. Do you have that letter?
I don't.
Okay.
I can look in the Google Drive, I thought it was there.
Yeah. But Mr. Moody, would you like to come up and introduce yourself and talk about your program, and then kind of give the board the full scoop on what we're looking at? Can you come to the mic if you're able?
I'll take
Thanks, Gordy.
Good morning. I'm Wayne Moody. I'm the director of the automotive program at Northwestern Michigan College. And I'm here obviously on behalf of the DARE car. So I'll give you a little synopsis of what this is all about, because this occurred way back. I mean, this was done in '89. The car was an end result of a cooperation between several community organizations and many businesses, including students from the Automotive Technology Department of NMC. The car was given to the DARE organization by the county board as a retired police vehicle that was going up for auction. The cost of the project was completely funded by area businesses. Part of the project was done at the automotive lab at NMC, and at that time, we gave the board the assurance that we agreed to perpetually maintain this vehicle at no cost to the county, during forever, which we've done. The cooperation was in fact, in a large part of what was given, this cooperation was one of the biggest reasons that we won this title, because of the cooperation between the area businesses and organizations. I thought I'd make that point. As a matter of fact, school children were actually involved in designing the DARE graphics on it, okay? Yes, the Sheriff's Department no longer participates in the DARE program, but the program is still in operation nationwide. And the concept of DARE and its anti-drug program still is obviously viable. This commemorates countless hours of training and teaching performed by the sheriff's deputies, as well as countless students who graduated from the DARE program, including my own. I can speak for the parties involved that they never wanted to put their efforts, so much efforts into this and then have it go away. It's kind of like defacing the winner of the Indy 500 in my eyes. So I think the vehicle would be a great asset to NMC's automotive program as a training vehicle and showcase both NMC's law enforcement program and the automotive departments. I see it being on display at the NMC barbecue, for instance, the Mike McIntosh Memorial Car Show that we put on. I can also see it in various parades, including the Cherry Festival. We typically would transport it in a covered trailer, and it has out-of-service covers for the lights, on the takedown lights. And it does not have a Sheriff's Department logo on it, per se. It never did. We find working on cars like this create a degree of enthusiasm that you cannot get by, say, tell a student to go out and work on a 2001 Caravan. I mean, there's just a big difference in the way they like working on these things. The plan would be to take it to other car shows, plus area parades, including the Cherry Festival. And the look of the car promotes NMC's, both their Automotive Technology Department and the law enforcement program. Plus, it would promote goodwill with law enforcement in general and promote the concept of the DARE program and its anti-drug sentiment. So that's my plea.
All right, so the letter, did you find it?
I did, I'm sending it.
Okay, well, we're public meeting, so you kind of got to read it to us. So it didn't make it into the packet.
Mr. Moody, would you like to read it, or would you like me to read it?
I don't have it.
All right, I'll read it. It's dated on July 8th, 2019, to the Commissioners. On behalf of Northwestern Michigan College, I would like to express our interest in acquiring the 1990 Caprice DARE patrol vehicle, should it become available. In exchange, the vehicle will be used to promote Grand Traverse County and the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Department, as well as the fundamentals of the DARE program. The vehicle would benefit Northwestern Michigan College in a variety of ways, including being displayed at numerous college functions, including the NMC barbecue and the annual car and truck show, driven in various parades, displayed along different car shows in the northern Michigan area, and benefit the NMC Law Enforcement Academy students. The Automotive Service Technology Building located on the Aero Park campus is a useful venue to maintain the vehicle in its show car condition and a perfect fit for NMC as graduates of the automotive program were part of the team who originally designed and built the car. Your consideration is greatly appreciated. Please contact me directly if you would like. Mr. Wayne Moody.
All right. Questions? Kind of for, I think, a little background, this was a Grand Traverse County Police cruiser that was used up, going to be sold at auction for, probably less than $1,000 at the time in the early 90s. So the board at that time, the county commission gave this to the program. They got donations for everything to fix it up to what it is today, and that's the pictures you're seeing. And then it's been in storage for 21 years, something like that.
Where's it in storage at?
Bob Oliverius is a former
Reserve captain.
reserve captain.
Yes.
And he's been doing that for no charge. So, I mean, just the storage fees are probably worth more than the car is, but he didn't charge us, right? So,
So if we get our hands on it, turn it over, get it detailed back up,
well,
is
it's
that
still county property. It still shows up on our vehicle list.
okay?
But I'm sure Kit will inform us, we can't just give things away because it's a public asset. So what I would propose is that we trade it for services, and the service would be to present this car at shows and parades and promote the message of keeping kids off drugs, as is the purpose of the vehicle.
Is that a motion?
Mr. Chair? May I just inject?
Yeah.
Mike Shea, Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office. Just for the record, the sheriff and I have had conversations about this, as has the sheriff with Mr. Moody. And I just want it noted that there are concerns with the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office and the DARE program being out in the public when we no longer have a DARE program. And the discussions have been attempts to remove the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office off of the vehicle. I'm not sure that Mr. Moody and the sheriff have come to a permanent conclusion on how that was going to be done. They do have some options they've discussed, and I think it should be noted that it is the opinion of the sheriff and the sheriff's office that we would prefer that would be removed if this does go out into the public at this time.
Okay. Well, I will move that we instruct staff to draft and execute an agreement with the NMC Automotive Program that includes displaying and promoting the message of this vehicle in exchange for possession of this vehicle pursuant to the approval of the sheriff. And if the sheriff has any, if they cannot come to agreement, the sheriff would come to this board by our first meeting in October to talk about other options.
Support.
So that gives them a little over, almost 2 months to come up with something that works for everybody. So moved by Henschel, supported by LaPointe. Discussion, Commissioner Jewett.
Can we get rid of county property in exchange for what you just presented?
Right.
Legal counsel.
Sorry,
That's all right. He's asking.
apparently
if-
it's already been declared surplus, so
Back in 1996, the board resolved to declare this vehicle surplus equipment.
Okay.
So in that resolution, however, it said, and turn that vehicle over to Grand Traverse DARE.
Okay.
So I don't know that you have to redeclare it surplus. The vehicle's already surplus, so it's the decision of the board on what they want to do here.
With surplus, we can give it away versus selling it, or?
I don't know that that's the case, but there has to be value for value, correct?
Well, I mean, the issue is, if it's surplus, then does it really have value?
Yeah.
Well, by declaring it surplus, the county's declaring it has no value and like to dispose of it.
I'll make that motion.
We already have a motion.
Okay, on top of that, maybe that one can be pulled.
But it does, I agree with Commissioner Jewett that we should be clear on whether we can legally give this away. Because
Yeah, I
I'm
would
not
like-
opposed to the idea, but I want to make sure that we are
Can we
able to
trade
do
it
that,
for
right? Like, that's
services?
what-
In this
I
case,
would
the
just-
services, promoting that DARE message and displaying the car at parades and events.
That's certainly a value. I don't have any concerns about this. It's already been declared surplus. It's just simply the disposal of something that's been declared surplus.
Okay?
So the answer is yes, we can give it away.
Yeah, I don't see any concerns with that.
Okay.
I'm open to staff recommendations if you have other thoughts.
Well, I'm sensitive to the sheriff's concerns about, it says Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department
Yeah.
on the vehicle. It's not a sheriff's department vehicle, so I understand the concern. I'm not exactly sure where that resolution will fall, potentially, so the undersheriff may have a better idea, but as long as there's a timeline for us to work within, I'm sure we can reach it, some type of an accord.
Well, if the sheriff doesn't object by the first meeting in October, we're going to assume this is handled.
Okay.
Bonnie, can you just read me the resolution? I just want to make sure I'm completely understanding what I'm voting on, please.
Direct staff to execute an agreement with Northwestern Michigan College Automotive Program to display the vehicle in exchange for services? Is that correct?
Yeah, the services are specified as displaying the vehicle and promoting the DARE message of keeping kids off drugs.
There's nothing in that motion that
And-
references the discussion and agreement with the sheriff's department to
Oh,
Under
I
Sheriff
do have
Shays.
contingent on sheriff approval.
Okay.
Well, and that's the hitch. I'm not sure that,
Well, not his approval, his lack of objection by our first meeting in October.
Okay,
So if he doesn't say anything, it goes forward. If he's got a problem, bring it back to us.
okay.
I mean, if you can't work it out. All right,
Okay,
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks for your time.
all right, so ready to vote on the motion? Are we clear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Go ahead. Commissioner
Since
Jewett.
we've just added more to it, can we just have you read it one more time, please, Bonnie?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Direct staff to execute an agreement with NMC Automotive Program to display the vehicle in exchange for services for promoting the DARE program.
In exchange for possession of the
In
vehicle.
exchange for, what?
What?
They get possession of the vehicle in
Right.
exchange for,
Promoting the DARE program.
displaying the car and promoting the DARE message. Because we don't have a local
Contingent on
DARE
the sheriff
program.
not objecting by the October meeting.
Okay. Are you good now? You want me to say it again?
Go ahead, say it again.
I don't know if I can.
I can't.
No. So the motion is to instruct staff to execute an agreement with the NMC Automotive Program for the services of displaying the car at events and parades and promoting the DARE message of keeping kids off drugs in exchange for possession of the car, contingent upon no objections from the sheriff by our October 1st meeting.
Perfect.
Okay? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Wayne, for your patience
Thanks,
today. and-
Wayne. Take care of that foot.
Yeah, good luck healing up there. All right, we are on to item 11A, 2018 audit presentation with Peter Hefner. Oh, these Dutch words.
So yes, we have Peter Hefner with Bredeveld Hefner LLC, CPAs and consultants here to present the 2018 audit report.
Page 178 in your packet. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. No problem. I'm going to begin and just talk a little bit about the audit report, and then we'll take a look at some historical perspective of where the county ended up the year. First of all, I want to point out that the financial statements are the responsibility of management, and it's our responsibility to express an opinion on those financial statements based on our audit. We have provided 3 opinions, and our first opinion is on page number 1, and I'm going to summarize it at the very bottom. It is our opinion that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, the aggregate remaining funds, as well as the aggregate component units in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And that's what I would refer to as a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. I do want to point out that the financial statements include the county as well as 7 other entities. Those other entities are presented as component units of the county or entities for which the county has some financial fiscal responsibility for those organizations. And those are things such as the Road Commission, Drain Commission, Land Bank, things of that nature. Now, this year is the first year for which your audit report also includes the Pavilions Foundation, which is a 501c3 organization, which is a nonprofit organization under the Internal Revenue Service.
Could you point the
Code.
mic towards you just a little bit? It's a
Sure.
little bit quiet, thanks.
So the financial statements include the Pavilions Foundation, which is a fundraiser on the behalf of the pavilions, as well as Pace North, which is an entity that is going to utilize county facilities to provide services similar to a Pace, but on an external healthcare provider basis. So a couple new entities in here. Also, as of this year, you have implemented all of the new accounting standards related to pensions and other post-employment benefit plans. Last year, the county implemented the other post-employment benefit accounting requirements, and this year, all of the entities under the city or the county's umbrella have also implemented those standards. So you'll see there is a restatement of the financial position of the pavilions, which is your largest enterprise fund, during the current year to implement the new required accounting standards. So you're up to date with the standards. This year was the year that it was required. The county implemented these requirements early, and that is presented within this report. Let me see here. So our opinion on the financial statements, I provided a summary of that in the back of the report on pages 193 and 195. We provide an opinion on your system of internal controls over financial reporting, which is required under government auditing standards. That is what I would refer to as a clean opinion for the current year. That is, we did not identify any significant deficiencies and no material weaknesses in your system of internal controls. Also, we audited your federal financial assistance, which was received this year. It's approximately $3.1 million. We provide our opinion on that audit procedures or compliance with federal requirements. It's presented on page 195, and we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, and we identified no non-compliance. So again, clean opinion. So the report is vast. There's a lot of detail. You'll see within it disclosures over and over because we're providing, or you're providing, disclosure about your pension plan for the county, then the pavilions, then the road commission. So there are multiple repetitive disclosures, and that's a lot of this report. I think, and I have a number of notes here, but I wanted to identify the things that changed during the year and the significance of the opinions that we provide, and then I want to walk through these slides with you if I can. And I'm here to really answer questions. Perhaps the slides will help you identify some questions, or you can just ask those questions. So this is a picture of the county's revenue across all of the county's funds. And this excludes those entities that the county has financial responsibility for. It's typically the county's general fund and governmental funds, as well as the county's proprietary funds or enterprise funds, such as the pavilions. So those enterprise funds operate like a business. The governmental funds operate more as taxes charged, services provided. So kind of a cash in, cash out. But here is a picture of the entire operation. You can see your charges for services are very substantial. And when we take a look at the next slide, you'll see why. But this is your entire county. Now, when we take a look at the next slide, we're taking a look at just your governmental activities. And you see how that blue component substantially declined? So at the whole level, This includes the pavilions and those business-type activities like delinquent tax collections, large charges for services. When we take a look at just your governmental operations or your typical general fund and those tax-funded activities, you can see that your charges for services are much less substantial. And here you can see to what extent are our operations supported by property taxes. I like to see it over 50% because from my perspective of just looking as an outsider, it says you control your destiny much more than those organizations where they're highly grant funded, where they're always on the hook for what does somebody else want to do versus what does this organization or this board want to do. So very positive. Now, the next picture that we have here are your governmental activities. And within this document, there are 7 different format of financial statements. So we're looking at a business perspective here of your governmental activities and to what extent are they self-supporting. The difference between the blue and the yellow represents to what extent are these operations supported by property taxes and state shared revenues. And it's very typical to see that the largest investment is in public safety. For counties, oftentimes health is a large component. Many times counties would report a community mental health organization here, which would spike it up. And in your case, you participate with multiple counties and don't reflect that operation. Now, when we take a look at your net assets of your governmental activities, what this is presenting is top line of blue, to what extent have you put dollars into infrastructure? This would represent buildings, typically equipment, things of that nature, less how much debt is outstanding associated with that infrastructure, less depreciation of that infrastructure over time. So you can see their consistent balance reflected here, and keep in mind that it's depreciating year after year. So you're consistently putting dollars into infrastructure of the county, buildings, equipment, things of that nature. You can see bumps. And those bumps typically represent when a bond is issued or a large debt service payment is made. What I like to see, just theoretically, from the outside looking in, is that the balance isn't going down. Things aren't getting depreciated faster than you're putting them back into service. That would represent some form of decline. And then the bottom line, the middle line, is just restricted dollars. So if you have a grant, dollars are needed for a specific purpose. What is that balance over time? The line that's very apparent here is that red line. That represents your unrestricted net assets, so like a business, and it declines substantially and it's increasing. What that represents is the implementation of the new pension and OPEB standards. So the year when you implement it, large dive, and now you're starting to climb out as you're funding your plans. Does that make sense? Now we're looking at not your government-wide activities or full accrual like a business would look at. Now we're just looking at your general fund operations, and the general fund accounts for its operations as dollars in and dollars out, almost on a cash basis. There is a slight accrual, but it doesn't reflect debt and it doesn't reflect fixed assets. Other than when you buy them, you show an expenditure for the entire asset value. So here's what I see here anyways, is property taxes are improving, which is great, after many years of where there wasn't any growth since the Great Recession. So starting to kind of pull out of that doldrums of no increases while you're still dealing with inflation of wages and the cost of everything else that the county provides. But you can see these other revenues really not that substantial and not substantial increases. Here's a picture of your expenditures, and this would reflect the purchase of a fixed asset as an expenditure. So if you bought, this building, it would show up as an expenditure in the year when that occurs. So you'll see these spikes. You can see kind of things are all holding steady year to year. And if you received a grant to buy a new, sheriff's boat, it would show up here as a spike. This is a picture of your general fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, which is a typical measure of governmental entities. To what extent do we have some capacity to finance operations without current cash flow today? Property taxes don't come in throughout the year. So you always need a cushion to cover payroll and costs. And so the concept that you have some fund balance available to finance, and it has actually improved over the prior year, that's positive on your operations. Provides cash flow. Here is a picture of all of your governmental fund balance, and this is just historical data right out of the financial statements. But you can see here, general fund increased, and if we took a look at the slide before, you can see it increased from the year before. These are your most substantial funds, but you can see the general fund dwarfs everything else. Also, if we showed your proprietary funds or those business type activities, the pavilions would also dwarf the other operations. The pavilion's operation at $30+ million in revenue a year. Yes, sir.
Regarding the pavilions, and I'm asking this just because the only information I have regarding pavilions is from their board packet.
Sure, sure.
At the end of 2018, they claimed that they had $8 million cash reserves. Basically the 1st of January in 2019, they had reported month-end cash of $6.8 million.
Sure.
I mean, that's, in 24 hours, there's a $1.2, $1.3 million reduction. Where are they on their cash balance at the end of 2018?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at page 20 of the financial statements, and I'm looking at the statement of cash flows for the pavilions. And if you turn 2 pages previous, you can see what the statement of net position for the pavilions is on page 18. So
I think our page numbers are not in the same order.
Okay,
We've
okay.
got page, sort of the whole packet typed
Commissioner
over.
Klaus has the written document. It is on page 18, but it is page 18 in the audit report as well. So I don't know how it's numbered in your packet.
Oh, yeah, in your packet.
All the
you're
numbers
looking
are
at
typed
PDF.
over, so it's hard
Yeah, you'd
to-
have to look at the bottom of the page, but I will read
I'm
it out.
looking at the bottom.
So,
It's named on the bottom.
So
No.
for the year ended December 31st, 2018, the pavilions ended with cash of $6.8 million, or $8.6 million.
Okay.
And
What
that.
page of our packet is that on? Because we don't have your numbered pages.
Yep, understood. I don't know because I haven't seen your packet, but the bottom of the page of the audit would say page 18.
Right, the problem is that we
I understand.
typed over top,
Oh,
so we
okay.
can't
I think it's
read.
page 216,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
or somewhere close to there. Can you read what that is? Is that,
You are exactly on. If it's hard to read it because
Yeah.
I understand.
216.
I'm looking at the PDF that's available
Hard to
on the
read.
Michigan Department of Treasury website. So at the top of the page, it will say Statement of Net Position, Proprietary Funds.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so what I am taking a look at is in the top left corner, as far as the numerical balances, the Grand Traverse Pavilion reported an ending cash position of $8.6 million. And if you turn 2 pages further, you will see a statement of cash flow on page 20 of the document I have.
That's page 218 in our packet.
Okay, and so what that reflects is in 2017, the pavilions had a cash balance of $9.05 million. At the end of 18, they had $8.89 million in cash. So what you're saying is you were looking at as of January 1st, and it reported a different balance on an internal generated report.
Correct.
I suspect it may not include all of the balances of the pavilions, maybe balances that weren't restricted, but I have, I could, if I saw it, I could help conclude that, but I have never seen what you're referring to. Now, one thing that is important to note is the pavilions was accounting for Pace North, some of the construction activities, as well as some of the contributions that were received, as was the Pavilions Foundation. So that could throw off the cash balance, but I would expect it to be somewhere in the realm of about $8.6 million. I'm not sure I'm answering your question just
Well,
because I haven't
you-
seen it, but.
And all I have is, is one page out of their packet for
Sure.
the meetings, which states where they are on their cash balance, so.
Sure, and that.
And is cash balance, that's what we're talking about? That's what you're referring to, cash balance is the
Yes.
8.69 million, almost 8.7 million.
Yes, yes. And when we're looking at these balances, though, these are not cash balances. This is really looking at the difference between current assets and current liabilities, or fund balance in the governmental funds. But we are going to take a look at pavilions here in just a second.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Thank you.
And if there was something you wanted to share with maybe Mr. Bott, he could send it on to me and we could say, here's what we see, or what have you. I'm sure the folks, Corey over at the pavilions, could also say, oh, it's because of this, we made a big pension contribution. And they would have had a pension contribution payable as of December 31st, and it's very possible they reflected that as we made the payment. And we show it as the payment was due. So it could be things of that nature.
Okay.
So here's the general fund dollar perspective, for the most part. And then here are your revenues of your business type activities. This is the pavilions and the delinquent tax revolving fund. This just shows that the dollars that come in are charges for service provided. And the next slide shows what are the revenues versus the expenses. This is the full accrual business perspective. Look at your operations of your business type activities. And I've segregated it into two graphs because if we were to just show the pavilions with the other enterprise operations, the other enterprise operations would be just a dot because the pavilions dwarfs them. So if you take a look here, your delinquent tax fund had revenues of about $800,000. Your inspection operations had revenues of about $1.8 million and expenditures in that same area. And then you have these other operations which aren't that significant. And you take a look at to your right, how significant is the operation of the pavilions? $30 million worth of revenue and $30 million worth of expenses, actually a increase with your expenses less than your revenues. And these are the program revenues. So just to look at your operation. Pavilions is as big as, the remainder of the county to some extent. And it's positive that, the lines that we see here, they're able to put dollars into your, the pavilion's infrastructure, buildings, capital assets, things of that nature, that investment in capital. And then the unrestricted balance also holding steady here for that significant operation of the county. And again, you'll see these bumps in that investment in capital asset based on what is being depreciated, how fast, and the related debt, how soon is it getting paid off. But you look over time, pretty much continue to invest in capital and offset the depreciation component. So positive. Here are your enterprise fund net position from 14 to 18. And when you take a look here, you can see the pavilions has declined, but they're also facing those new accounting standards that relate to pension and OPEB. Now they're fully implemented. Over time now, I would expect those lines to hold steady, that Grand Traverse Pavilion's black line. But keep in mind that they implemented the new post-retirement benefit healthcare standard in 18. They implemented a new accounting standards for pensions likely in 14, which drove it down to 15. Now those standards are in, they're not changing. The only issue will be when assumptions are changed by MERS or the county on your benefit plans. That can drive that number up and down, but that's the nature of those spikes. The report's pretty vast. There's a ton of information, 7 different statement formats, 2 bases of accounting, modified accrual and full accrual, statistical information for 10 years in the very back, information about your federal compliance, which we identified no issues with. So there's a ton of information. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and hopefully the slides are somewhat helpful, but it's pretty vast, and if you take a look at the management's discussion and analysis right up front, it's the best place to direct the public, the media, and people who just want a taste. If you want all the detail, it's all in here. Any questions I can answer for you? And is that too long, too short? Dean, tell me after we're gone.
I'm fine, but I live this stuff as well as Cherry every day. But I know that it is probably confusing. As Peter mentioned, this is a very complicated financial report. It's complex. We do issue this to the GFOA. We have submitted. We're asking for them to review it, and we hope that it does meet the requirements of their certificate program for excellence in financial reporting. We won't know that until early next year, but this is a very complex financial statement. It was filed with the state on time. We are getting questions from the state. We brought back the deficit elimination plan, still working with the state, clearing that issue. We do have some reporting that will have to do with the pension situation because we're not at 60% funded. So I'm always amazed at how quick the state, the Department of Treasury, reviews this, but maybe Peter could comment on that. I think you're providing a lot of that information to them in a document that goes along with this. It can be within 24 hours to 2 days where they're sending things back to us that require just additional work or additional explanation, and all electronic.
Yeah, so if you go out to the Michigan Department of Treasury website and you could put into Google or a search engine and say Michigan Department of Treasury audit reports, you will find all audit reports for governments in Michigan, all of the cities, the schools, the townships. And for each audit report submitted with the Michigan Department of Treasury, there is what is referred to as is the document we submit with your audit. It's approximately, I'd say, about 8 pages long, and there's about 50 questions on there. And it says anything from, is there a fund that has a deficit, to how well is your pension funded? Were there any inappropriate transactions? There are a lot of questions. It says, it requires us to put in, like, what's your general fund balance? What were expenditures? So they can make all these calculations. And as soon as they get that, it's triggering them to provide you with a letter saying, this is the one thing that we see in your audit report, which we haven't actually opened yet. Start taking action to address it. So it's a positive. It's a lot of work to put together your financial information. Dean and Cherry and Nate and your staff are very, they jump on it. When we ask for something, they jump on it. And when we provide lists up front, they prepare it before we come. But that Michigan Department of Treasury side, they are getting electronic information about your audit, and then they kick off a letter immediately. It's like 2 days or a day or what have you.
The letter that you referenced, I'm sorry, there's like you said an 8 or 9 page form that you have to fill out that goes with.
Yes,
this when you
electronic
submit
format,
it.
yes.
And it's available on the Michigan Treasury website.
Yes, so if
Is it available on our website?
We do post the CAFR on the county website.
And is the CAFR, I don't do the acronyms, is the CAFR that?
This is the CAFR, which is a comprehensive annual financial report. The other document is not typically put on people's websites because it's actually a summary of this, but.
I understand, and so I guess that's where I'm going. You talked about it being digestible for the public, and I'm wondering if maybe that's something, since we are submitting that 8 to 9 page summary that is more lay people's terms, if that's something that we could post on the Grand Traverse County website with this?
Yeah, that is not in more lay people's terms. What I would suggest is the management's discussion and analysis, which is the very front of this, your audit report, is the most understandable.
Just the beginning, right, okay. So you feel like what we have posted on our website is already the most sort of public-friendly?
I would think so. The management's discussion and analysis, the document that goes to the state, it's available to anyone who wants to look at it, but it's almost like random facts that wouldn't really tell you why it might be important. So it might be, it could surely be looked at and say, yeah, it does make sense to put here, or let's put this 20% or what have you. But I was trying to refer to up front of this report.
Right.
There's a summary of what's in the rest of the report.
Right.
Management's discussion and analysis.
I appreciate that. I'll take a look at the one on the Treasury website.
And there are other documents out there, or when they forward a letter to the county saying, what are you going to do about this issue?
Mhm.
So it's really very transparent of various information.
Peter?
Yes, sir.
What date was this audit finalized?
It was finalized on June 30th.
Okay.
And I can tell you that the delay in finalizing it was on me. I had a family emergency that I wasn't able to be back here in a timely manner. Also, one issue that we ran into are those two new entities, which was Pace North and the Pavilions. They'd never been included in the county's audit before.
Really?
So upon Pavilions Foundation. So upon identifying that issue, we conducted 85% of the audit in, March. I think it was March. And it was going fantastic, and then we started looking at, okay, these entities are related, they're becoming material, we're gonna have to include them. We had to work with the Pavilions to see if they were on board, and Dean's team to make sure they were on board, how to approach it. And we kind of pulled out and awaited some information from those entities. And in the meantime, I had an issue I was not able to get back here.
Okay.
So normally I would expect to see it issued.
What changed? I mean,
the dollar amounts to begin with, they got
Okay.
$1 million+ in grants
okay.
for the foundation.
And has that not been the case in past years?
Right, yes.
Okay.
And the Pavilion's PACE was not in existence.
Right.
PACE actually didn't have, the accounting records for PACE were accounted for through the Pavilions and the Pavilions Foundation, even through 12/31. So actually, the statements were created from those two entities. So it was fairly complicated. And the money flowing from the gifts to the foundation that flowed through to PACE, and then you financing the construction at PACE. But I think going forward, it should be straightforward. But that issue date is on me, no question about it.
Okay. My next question is actually, it might be more for staff. When a commissioner has a question about how an entity is reporting publicly their financial information and it doesn't add up, how are we supposed to get an answer to that? I emailed, June 28th, I emailed Nate and Dean and said, maybe it would be helpful if the auditor could reconcile the issues that Commissioner Klaus has been bringing up about the Pavilions at their board meetings, presents these numbers month to month, but they don't add up the beginning balance and ending balance month to month, right?
Right.
That's June 28th. It's August 7th now. What are we supposed to do to get some answers? We're representing the public here. This is their money.
Well, I was aware of the email. I don't have access to the Pavilion's records. I guess I could have contacted Corey or John Jacobs, so I guess Commissioner Henschel, that's on me. I did not follow through on it.
Okay. Fair enough. Could we get some follow-through and get his questions answered?
I will be on it today.
Thank you.
Those questions were asked, though, in a meeting with Mr. Hanson, and I'm not sure that even his answer was completely inclusive of Mr. Klaus's desire. So we asked him specifically when we met with him in the Gov Center conference room, or the Gov admin, there was no real response to that.
Right.
I don't know that what they're reporting through those monthly reports is what is being reflected in this audit. I'm not sure that it is.
Okay. And that meeting I sat in on, that was the week prior to my email. And I guess I kind of expected our auditor to be aware, or at least be given copies of what Commissioner Klaus has been asking questions about.
Well, with all due respect, Commissioner Henschel, that's not something our auditor is engaged to do. That would be that's beyond the scope of.
Okay.
So.
That's fine. If that's not the right avenue, what is?
I should have
What I wanna know.
followed up with it,
Okay.
but to be honest, I thought that those questions were answered in the meeting that you had.
No, this email was after that meeting.
So is the foundation, the money that they received, is that part of the 8.69 million?
No, sir.
That's above.
That's above and beyond.
So is the foundation monies, is that in?
Yeah, so you have the paper report. I'm going to direct you to the page to take a look at.
Okay.
If you would take a look with me at page 23. 23 shows all of the entities for which are legally separate from the county, yet the county, under accounting standards, is considered to have financial accountability for those. And so you'll see the road commission there. Take a look to your far right, the last 3 columns. PACE, Pavilions Foundation, and then the total. Only reason I said 3 columns is because they're half, next to the total. But do you see where it says PACE?
Yes.
$1.4 million in cash and pooled investments, and they had a receivable of $1.2 million. Then you can see the Pavilion Foundation to the right of that. Those are exclusive of the dollars we were talking about at the pavilions.
Okay.
Okay? And I wonder if maybe what you're seeing for the pavilions are dollars that aren't restricted. So if, let's say, some dollars came in on a grant and they needed to use it
Well-
for that purpose, but I just don't know that answer, and I
Right,
apologize.
right. And I don't have a clue either.
Sure, sure.
I'm trying to hopefully get it so it's more clear for the board members.
Sure.
At the pavilion, I mean, because.
Absolutely, I understand
you know,
exactly where
reporting-
you're coming from, yes.
Reporting, that they have basically 6.8 million on the 1st of January, and turns in a report that they have 8 million at the end of December, but, which is really 8.7 million.
It's hard to follow, I think.
It's a big spread of, and then I'll just say this, and then to cap it off, to have the pavilions, the foundation stuff, looking for grant money for doing repairs at the facility there, just for pouring concrete and stuff. It just irritates me a little, but as you can probably tell.
Yeah, sure, I understand, sure.
But thank you for your explanation, and
Sure.
this will help.
My pleasure, I appreciate the opportunity. Are there any other questions I could address?
Commissioner LaPointe.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate the scope is the audit, and a lot of the questions we get into has nothing to do with the audit per se. I had been in a township trustee, so I'm kind of used to seeing these audits, and this was overwhelming
Yes,
compared
huge.
to what we get as, and most of the emphasis was on the findings in a township. So I immediately went through this looking for the findings, and they're really, I guess if we're doing the job, there are no findings, so really wasn't anything there. So that was always, in a township, you'd see
Absolutely.
the findings, see the response, and see the previous and whatever, and this is.
Right.
This is a fire hose of numbers more than anything else. Just a couple things, and I realize this is, since we've got you here and we're talking about these things, a couple things that struck me looking at this was the amount of detail you get into on all aspects. Nobody has the time and the inclination. You can find out what's going on looking at this stuff. The OPEB, which we don't talk about much here, and you covered the county, you covered the pavilions, you covered the road commission. And in terms of funding, we're 21% funded, pavilions is 33% funded, and the road commission's 2% funded. Now, it isn't as big a number as the pension, but is this something that we need to get engaged in? And I realize this is, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's a problem. No problem at all. I just wanted to give you a little history.
Okay.
Historically, the Road Commission had set aside dollars for their other post-employment benefit plan, and Mr. Bach, he knows a lot about this issue too. At one point in time, they had set aside dollars, as the county has, for that program. And then they began spending down those dollars when they made a substantial change, I believe, in who would receive it. And so they've spent down the dollars that were set aside, and currently, I don't know that the fact that they're approximately 2% funded, the liability is also, less than 5% of all of their revenue in a given year. They could fund it now. Whether that makes sense or not, I don't know. So just theoretically, some background on that.
Okay, and I guess the other thing, and I won't touch on it, we'll cover it more in the MERS, but you also cover the MERS
pension?
Yes.
And use the number 48% funded, I believe, 48.9 or something like that. And that's the actual funding versus the smooth funding. We got a little bit of a lesson on that.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, so what's, on the difference of those two. So you use the actual in the audit for as far as financial reporting, which gets me to the question that you brought up earlier, Dean, about the 60%. If you're below 60%, there's some additional paperwork that has to be submitted to the state. Does the state work on the actual number, which would be 48.9, or the 53 that is the smooth number?
They work on the market value. They don't
Actual.
consider the smoothing.
Okay. So when we look, smoothing can either give you a higher number or a lower number. I think we can confuse ourselves by jumping between two. We should set a standard when we're discussing our liability, so we're not saying at one time to the public, oh, we're 53% funded, and the next minute we're saying, well, we're 48% funded. Just a, doesn't have to be decided here, but just a thought. Just another thing, since this is so extensive, I think in the future when we get the packet, this should almost be a separate document, keeping their numbers going forward.
I believe, hopefully you all received a paper copy as well.
Is it in my mailbox? I don't
Yeah,
care.
there's
Probably.
a bunch of dead trees in our
Shame on me.
mailboxes.
Sorry.
I have a couple other questions, again, probably beyond the scope of what you did, although you know the numbers. And this is before my time. The Pace building that they're in, that was a county building at one time.
Yeah, health
And I
department.
looked at it, and I probably can't find it. So, well, I think it's on page 269 or something. It shows a revenue that we'll be receiving from them over time. Did I read that right or understand that right, or?
Yeah, it's a lease.
Would that,
There's a lease agreement in place. There's various documents, contracts in place, lease agreements. You've got the building authority involved because bonds were
Right.
issued. That's a very complicated series of transactions between not only the county, the pavilions, the building authority, and the PACE entity.
but coming into the general fund, if we're looking forward into the future in terms of what our revenue is going to look like, I mean, things we'll look at are, when this kicks in, when this will be a revenue source for the county, and some of these bonds that will be extinguished, that's expensive.
My understanding at this point in time is that the lease payment will be received not by the general fund, but by a debt service fund or one of the governmental funds of the county, and the lease repayment is virtually identical to what you're going to pay in debt service. And so the agreement says, through the term at which this bond is repaid, you're basically going to pay us the principal and interest due. So the PACE is saying, this is what we owe to the county. The county is saying, this is what they owe from us. And then at the point in time when the building is paid in full, I believe the agreement says something of the nature of, you can continue to use this as long as you're providing for that same purpose.
And there also is a smaller payment per an agreement with the pavilions where they do pay a rent to the county on an annual basis.
To answer some of your questions, I just pulled up the executed lease agreement. So in 2014, there was a lease executed between the DHHS board and the county. It leased down the old health department building on Garfield. We get $31,250 in rent annually for their use of that space.
So the net to the county is 31,000 after, so we're leasing it to,
$1 a square foot, something like that?
so we're leasing it to them, in essence, for $31,000 a year.
Yeah, $31,250
Okay.
is the lease.
Okay.
When's that up, Chris?
That is up 2033, so it's a 20-year lease.
Okay. I couldn't figure that out from the documents here.
You would not be able to.
On 263, our page 263, which is your page, somewhere around 100, are the bonds, let me just see if I can find it here.
They're page 65, I think.
Oh, no, I have one with the numbers. I was looking for your numbers.
I don't know what. The page reference.
Yep.
Oh, I get, okay, well, somewhere in here, they talk about bonds for the pavilions. Was that the original construction of the pavilions in?
No, the only outstanding bond issue for the pavilions is there's one of the cottages has a smaller bond issue. The note, the footnote, the long-term debt footnote, let me see if I can find it. It's gonna be
Okay, so the 3.2 million, is that what that was for the cottages? That's not the original.
correct, that would
Okay.
be on the cottages. That's not
Okay,
the
'cause I
PACE
thought that
bonds.
was
What page is
all
that?
paid for out
That's
of
on
millage
page
and
66 in the actual audit report, but I'm not sure.
it's
64.
260,
262, we believe.
somewhere around 269.
And those bonds are obligations of the pavilions reported not in the governmental fund, but in the business type activities. But yes, those are, I believe, on the cottage that was renovated, not related to the PACE building in any
Okay.
way. And those bonds they would be paid off in 2031 based on the information in the audit report.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot here.
If you do have questions, please,
Yeah.
come and see me, give me a call, send me an email. If I can't answer them, I'll get a hold of Peter. But we should be able to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to your staff as well, because they're prepared, and when we're doing the audit, we're auditing, not doing your accounting, which is refreshing.
I assume you do other counties.
Yes, we do.
Do they have as many funds?
I
as
can
we
tell you
do?
that we audit a county that's comparable. It's Ottawa County, which is down by Holland. And their audit report is about as substantial as yours, but we actually performed 7 audits to conduct their audits. So we audit many of the operations that you have within this document that are legally separate entities, and they're audited separately. So in your case, the road commission is audited separately here, but in their case, they audit many of those others separately. But their report is just as comprehensive.
And complex.
It's ridiculous, the amount of disclosure and information provided here, but it's because you have an operation that is, you're doing lots of things. You're doing anything from constructing the infrastructure for local units, to doing the roads, to doing, healthcare, and it's just your operation is so vast. It's very complex.
I have one last question. Who pays for the audit? Does it come out of the general fund, or is it split up amongst all the entities?
It comes out of the county general fund. We charge it all to the board. There is some cost recovery through indirect costs. The additional work that was done at the pavilions, they will pay for this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So the other counties that you audit, in the relationship to their medical care facilities, what type of oversight does the county body have over that facility, in your experience?
We don't audit another county with a medical care facility. I have conducted audits of Allegan County, which had a medical care facility, but Ottawa County doesn't have such a thing, and our other county does not, and the county that we assist in their audit preparation just got out of that business because they couldn't afford to be in that area. So your picture is much different. Yours actually can break even and support itself. In the case, I assist with Muskegon's financial statements preparation for their audit for separate auditors, and they just got out of that business. So I couldn't answer your question.
I think you did answer it.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
We will move on in the agenda. We didn't need any motions or anything. Okay, just presentation. We are on to second public comment. Anyone from the public like to speak at this time? Seeing none? We'll move on to commissioner and department reports. Anything to report? Fairs this week?
Just make a comment, geez, we've been talking about the pavilions a lot, DHHS. And I just mentioned to Nate a few minutes ago, we were missing, it's only a 3-member board. You know, it's a big operation and very complex, but it's a 3-member board, and we're missing 1 board member, down to 2. Difficult to run a board with an even number, let alone only 2 people. So I guess the question is, we're going to inquire, is the individual that was thinking of dropping off the board going to get off the board, or does he want to, can he make his arrangements with work to stay on, or, because we need to get on with the process of bringing somebody aboard, post the position and do the interviews. Does take some time, so
We've not
I would just ask.
Not received a resignation, have we?
I have not.
Okay.
I will be asking, I have a note to ask Mr. Rizzo what his intentions are.
If we receive that, we will immediately start advertising, I assume?
I guess the only other thing is just a little update on the airplane. It's late.
Still got closed session.
The airport ad hoc that we're discussing, the authority versus remaining the commission, et cetera, that's moving along. We've got one more session. I asked the question, what's, the consultants there, and of course, consultants, I'm going to take this the wrong way, like to drag things on. So supposedly, we're getting the last of the information we need to start going into discussion on that. And we'll, I think, do a straw vote amongst the parties to just see kind of where we stand, and then begin deliberations, I guess, going forward. But sometimes, in my opinion, if you take a project, you drag it on too long, you kind of lose some continuity. So I think we need to keep on top of it, move that thing along, and get that decision behind us. And then, because it has to go to both counties for approval, and it goes back, and so it's a long process yet. So hopefully we'll get that wrapped up in the not too distant future.
Okay. Any other mission reports?
Just a question for administration about the Complete Count Committee. Is there a date?
No, not yet. We're still working to identify nonprofits and people that want to
Okay.
be involved in that.
And respectfully, I just want to point out that the census begins in January of next year, and we're at August, so there's some no, they do start their process in January, so
I
just
understand.
some urgency around that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? We'll move on to notices. We have August 14th is the Ethic Ad Hoc at 9 a.m. August 21st is our next regular meeting, and August 28th, we have a study session with the EDC about TIF 97. Should be an exciting one. Any other notices? All right, and we believe we do have a closed session.
Yep.
All right, so we need a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with our legal counsel.
To consider a written legal opinion protected from disclosure under attorney-client privilege related to the Maryland Palmer jail suicide incident as permitted under MCL 15.268 subparagraph H.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, I've got moved by Klaus, supported by Kafia. Need a roll call vote, please?
Kofia?
Yes.
Lapointe?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Jewett?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes. Okay, we are going to go into closed session in the next room over, and we'll be back in a little while. Put it off till next time.
I'll just say that.
Great marathon today.
Make a motion to
Come out of closed session.
come out of, I think, motion to come out of closed session at 11:48.
Support.
Moved by Jewett, supported by Klaus. Come out of closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Mr.
And
Chairman, I would like to make a motion based on our closed session there that we accept the settlement offer presented to us by legal counsel in the Marilyn Palmer case.
Support. Okay, moved by Jewett, supported by Klaus to accept the settlement offer in the Marilyn Palmer case. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We need to be roll call.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gotta be roll call.
Lapointe,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Jewett,
Yes.
Kofia,
Yes.
Henschel.
Yes. Motion carries. If we have no further business, we are adjourned.